Okay. I'd like to announce that a quorum is present. The meeting is duly called, and notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. The time is 6 p.m. We ask that all those in attendance conduct themselves respectfully at all times during this meeting. Any outbursts or disruptive behaviors may result in your removal from this evening's board work session. The following board members are in attendance: Tracy Miller, Allison Lasan, Catherine Sells, Dr. Buddy Bonner, Christy Hassett, Jenny Prosnick, and Sheila Taylor. I'll lead us in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for the preparation that has gone into getting ready for school to start in a week and a half. We thank you, Father, for the great teachers and educators we have in LISD. We pray for their families and for them for the year, that we will have a good year, that we'll have limited disruptions. We pray, Father, this evening that you'll give us wisdom as we consider the things that are best for LISD, for the people that work for us, the taxpayers, for the students, the parents, everybody that is a stakeholder in LISD. We just pray, Father, that we will make good decisions. We thank you for the blessing and the honor to be able to serve in this capacity. In Jesus' name, amen. Before I announce that we're going to go to executive session, I want to welcome Troop 262, and I'm going to read some legal language that I want to explain to you, because I know that part of the process is for you to learn this evening. So generally a city or a municipality or a county or a political subdivision can go talk about certain things in executive session. There are limited things. There are things about land sale or purchase, or human resources, or contractual matters. Very limited number of things, but this is a government code that applies to even the cities that you live in. So you'll hear at 551 dot and then some numbers. Those are the things that we're going to go talk about just for a little bit, and then we'll be back here as soon as we can for you guys to post the colors for us. So with that said, we're now convening to closed session as authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551, specifically 551.071, 072, 074, and 129. The time is 6:02 p.m. We're back on record in open session, having returned from closed session. The time is now 6:09 p.m. At this time, please rise and direct your attention to the boardroom entrance for the presentation of colors by local Boy Scout Troop 262. Remain standing as they lead us in our pledges. All right, guys, if you just remain standing, we're just going to have you introduce yourself and tell us which school you represent. If we want to just start over here on our left, your right, go ahead. Well, thank you guys for coming out. As a proud Eagle Scout myself, I would say, hey, stick with it. It's worth it in the long run. 42 years later, I can say that. Miss Hassett over here has also produced a few Eagle Scouts, all of her sons, actually. 3. We're part of 262. So thanks for coming out, and I hope you enjoy the part of the meeting that you're going to stay for. Thank you. Okay, consider approval of resolution authorizing the sale of real property between LISD and Texas Department of Transportation located at 900 South Mill Street, Lewisville, Texas. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make that motion, Mr. Miller. I move that the board approve the resolution and sale of real property described as 983 square feet of land, more or less, located at 900 South Mill Street, Lewisville, Texas, 75057, Denton County, Texas, to the Texas Department of Transportation, TxDOT, and authorize the district's administration and board president to take any and all appropriate action necessary to effect the conveyance and purposes of the resolution.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Ms. Hassett, any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Do you want to do the vision statement? Okay. Our vision statement is all of our students enjoy thriving, productive lives in the future they create. Mission statement, students, staff, and community design and implement a learning organization that provides engaging, innovative experiences every day. LISD Cornerstones Student Experience, Dr. Miller.
Can you hear me? Oh, now you can hear me. All right, our I statement for this evening is I seek and encourage talent development. This month we are pouring into our new hires and celebrating them and getting them ready for the year. So,
great, thank you. Persons desiring to address the Board of Trustees must fill out a speaker's card. In accordance with district board policy, only speaker cards addressing items on this evening's agenda will be acknowledged. No presentation shall exceed 3 minutes. The board cannot deliberate on any subject that is not included on the agenda. Each speaker will receive a written follow-up from the district in the next 3 business days. The board and district administration values the feedback shared during this time of the meeting, and we are grateful for the continued partnership between LISD and the families and communities we serve. We have no speakers this evening. Discussion items, Dr. Rapp.
All right, I'm going to ask Ms. Smith to join us up here, and we're going to provide some information as we provided for you prior to the meeting about COVID leave.
Better? As you may remember, last year in September, we brought forward a resolution where we put COVID leave up to 10 days in for our staff that went retroactive from July 1 to June 30th of this past year. This evening, we would just like to talk to you about the possibility of recommending that again for this year. So why the recommendation? Currently, TA continues to require our staff members who have tested positive for COVID to stay isolated now for up to 5 days. We certainly want to encourage our staff to stay home when they have a positive test result rather than trying to come to school sick or coming to school with a positive test because they don't want to use their days. An additional consideration, as I know you're aware, we do not provide as many days of local leave as several of the districts around us. I've listed a few here who all provide 5 days of local leave, where we provide 3. So just so you know kind of what neighboring districts are doing, several have already made the decision to implement COVID leave again this year, but they're lowering it from the 10 days to 5, that corresponds obviously with TA mandate. And you can see that HEB, Dallas, Rockwall, and Garland have already made that decision. There are a few districts that have stepped out and said they're not going to continue COVID leave. Frisco, Capel, and CFB have said that. Plano initially said they were undecided, but I will let you know late last week they updated us and said that they are probably going to have COVID leave for this next year. So let's talk just a little bit about the cost. Last year, we spent about $2.1 million on COVID leave. We are still estimating that it would cost that for this next year because the average number of days that people used was 3. And so since the average number of days people used was 3 days, and that's still less than our 5 days that we would be providing, we're estimating that it would still cost about $2.1 million. I will say in the analysis of what happened last year, we did a really good job of working with employees, and it was up to 10 days. And if we were to move forward with this, it would be up to 5 days. A lot of that depends on when they first test positive. So they may have a weekend or a long weekend at play, and they wouldn't need all five days. If we were to put the resolution back in place, we would recommend we make it once again effective July 1 through June 30th, so it would cover the entire year. We would once again be having employees submit a positive test result from a healthcare provider in order to qualify for leave reimbursement. A home test will not qualify for leave reimbursement. And then we would recommend the approval of the resolution at the August 8th board meeting if you want to move that forward, so our staff know as soon as possible when we begin the year. So with that, I'll answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, Ms. Smith, I appreciate that presentation. Board, I appreciate just your consideration of this topic this evening as we continue to study the TEA guidelines, and with those mandatory stay-at-home requirements, we felt like we really needed to bring this forward in light of the things that Ms. Smith has discussed with you. So we appreciate the consideration and are open to questions about this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Rapp. Who's place 4? Ms. Sells?
Yes, I don't think I have any questions other than, are any of the districts that were higher than the 5, have they come out and said that they were keeping the higher than 5? Or are they just all dropping down to the TEA?
I have not seen any that are continuing up to 10 days. Once TEA lowered the guideline to up to 5 days, all districts are going, we're trying to follow the TEA guidelines. So I have not seen a district that says they're going to keep the up to 10 days.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I just want to clarify that just like the resolution last year, this applies to the employee only. This does not apply to family members,
yes.
et cetera.
Thank you for asking that question, because that is a point of clarification. Yes, it would apply only to our employee who tests positive.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Just curious, because we're seeing kind of some bounce, 20, some of the therapies that are out, right? You're seeing a 20% of people are getting COVID again in a short period of time. So someone gets COVID, they're going to get 5 days of leave. 30 days later, they get COVID again. Is this a per incident?
So the way we worked it last year, and I mean, this is your resolution, we could ultimately make changes, but it was up to 10 days, so this is up to 5 days. If the first time they only used 2 or 3 days and they were to have a second occurrence, they would have the 2 days left, but it isn't per occurrence. It's just a total number of days.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Dr. Rapp?
All right, so our next topic is the addition of elementary rovers, and I know that we'll be talking about safety and security later, so I'm not going to go into a great amount of detail here, other than to just say myself, Matt Garrett, Mr. Kosh have been meeting with our local police chiefs. We had a joint meeting together with all the police chiefs at one time last week, and I can't say thank you enough publicly to our law enforcement partners and our city officials who are working to make this program possible and get this off the ground by the time school starts. So we will be implementing for the 22-23 school year increased safety and security measures with an elementary rover patrol program that will be staffed by uniformed law enforcement officers that will be patrolling a small number of elementary schools. And we will be providing that information to parents this week in my back to school message, along with updating our website. The main thing I wanted to be sure to let you all know is agreements will start coming forward for these rovers. You can probably start to see them as soon as the August 3rd meeting coming up. And other than that, we'll continue to keep you updated about our progress.
Thank you, Dr. Rapp. Ms. Hassett? Ms. Taylor? Dr. Bonner? Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Rapp. Ms. Maloney?
Thank you. The first item of many tonight that we have for you is the architect firm selection for the Student Success Center parking lot renovations. I will defer to Mr. Veit.
Before he comes up, as he's sitting down, let me just say about this item that we realize that the homeowners in this neighborhood, have brought forward concerns. Several of you have also asked questions about parking at the Student Success Center. So thank you for working on a solution that will provide some relief. I know I've written about this along the way, but we appreciate the work you've done on it.
All right. Good evening, President Miller, Dr. Rapp, and the board. So tonight I am here to present the discussion item just for the selection of the architect for some parking lot renovations at the Student Success Center. As Dr. Rapp mentioned, currently there is not enough parking for faculty, staff, and visitors at that site, and so unfortunately folks are having to park on all the surrounding streets around there, which is less than ideal. As you know, this site is extremely small, and so really the only place to expand parking is on that southwest corner where the playground currently sits, and so our goal is going to be to try and work within the existing trees and leave as much of the existing playground as possible. There may be some playground equipment that has to be relocated or replaced with this project. We are proposing Huckabee as the architect. They, along with their civil engineer, they're both very familiar with this site and this building. They both worked on the renovations of this building in the 2017 bond. And this item will be brought back next week as a consent item. If approved, the next steps would be to continue the feasibility studies and discussions with the city. This is in the Old Town area of Lewisville, so there are some little different landscaping requirements and things like that. The parking lot would then be designed and bid out, and a construction manager at risk selection will follow as well. We'll also have a little bit more information on the anticipated cost at that time when we find out how much of the playground will be, displaced and things like that. So with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Ms. Taylor?
Randy, how many spots are we talking about putting there? Has it already been designed?
Yeah, so we're still working on that. We're trying to maximize, get as many spots as we can.
How many do you anticipate?
I mean, it's only going to be about 20 to
Yeah,
25
it's not that big of a
spots.
spot. And so you're going to flip the playground to the other vacant spot on the southeast corner of the building? Is that what you're thinking?
We're hoping to still fit the playground within that southwest corner.
Okay.
Actually, on the southeast side is where the portables are, and
Yeah,
we're actually
yeah.
moving an additional portable over there now.
And then lastly, I'm probably a little bit off task, but you doing anything across the front of the building? There's some space in there that you might be able to regain, maybe not?
With the setbacks and everything, I don't know that we can do much in the front, but
Okay.
the town may require us to do some upgrades to some sidewalks and ADA ramps and things like that with this project.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So I heard you say portables. So there are still portables there?
Yes, ma'am. There is one portable there currently, and we're moving another one right now. Different effort, so it's not part of this project, but yeah.
Right. I guess I'm just, okay, you're right. That is something that doesn't regard this, but, okay.
Sure.
Don't like the idea of more portables over there, but I'm just continuing the Angie Cox.
Understood,
Okay.
understood.
And now I'm kind of blanking. Have we done a parking study out there? Do we know how many people are having to park off of? This is something that I brought a long time ago, and it seems to have gotten worse over
Yes,
the.
I think with the change in function of that building, it certainly has not improved the situation. Part of the feasibility study that I'm talking is really doing those parking studies and just trying to determine, really, we're going to be kind of limited as to how many spaces we can really fit, because there's just only so much room on that site. But we'll certainly do the best we can to get as many cars off the street as possible.
And then have we thought about having some kind of outreach for those neighbors that we have, and
So
trying to bring them, I mean, even if they just, I don't know, block party or something
Right,
for them,
right.
to just make them more of our,
Right.
more as a part of our community, not just that this is us and this is you.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
I think they'll be very excited, and Dr. Rappert actually mentioned that to me prior on
Okay.
trying to get some kind of messaging out to the neighbors over there, let them know that this is coming. Unfortunately, it won't be there, obviously, for start of school, but it is coming. And I think the city is excited as well. Obviously, they don't like the situation out there either, so.
Right, it is dangerous.
Right.
So,
We did
okay.
have a community member that had reached out to Claire Powell at the city of Lewisville, and Claire and I had talked, and so she had let that person know, and she was pleased to share the message, and I think that will continue to spread as well. So.
Okay, perfect. And then if everything is on timeline, are we looking at the end of next year, or are we looking prior?
So I'll have more information on that as well as we kind of get the team assembled. Yeah, it will take several months, and we'll have to look at the best timing to do this as well with that campus and work hand in hand with them.
And
so.
just in that effort to really share that information with that community, if we could be just as transparent as we can be with them, I mean, the minute we move any kind of construction vehicle onto that property, that we let them know as soon as we are in stages, we let them know, and because that information is going to make them more of a partner.
Sure.
Rather than not. And so if we could just continue that, I would appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Randy. I just want to do a quick explanation for the scouts that are here, because they might be taking notes, and they may leave on some of the other topics. So one of the things that you just observed is a very transparent process where we go through the efforts by our staff to make accommodations for students, teachers, or community members. And so the way that it works under the government code established by the state of Texas is that Mr. Fite just brought forward to us some ideas that the staff has around fixing some parking problems. With that, we're going to select an architect first that will design the project. And at that point, we'll review the project with the architect, and we'll determine a procurement method, which is called construction manager at risk. There are different ways you can buy in Texas, but that's the one that we use. And with that, we then hire somebody that's going to do the project, and then they'll come back to us another time with a guaranteed maximum price on what it's going to cost us to do that. So that's now 4 times that we have put in front of the public an opportunity to hear the work that's going to be done and the money that's going to be spent. In addition, you heard Dr. Rapp mention somebody who is a town manager or city manager in Lewisville, and so we have to work with that governmental entity to get permits and address any concerns by the community members and that type of thing. So that's a kind of a summary of what you just heard. And so if you're taking notes and you've got to do that for your merit badge, whatever, I think that's a good, maybe a good project for you to focus on. Thanks, Randy.
Thank you so much, Mr. Miller. Our next item in the finance area is proposed compensation adjustment for child nutrition, and I'll ask Mr. Turner to come to the dais.
Good evening, Board President Miller, Dr. Rapp, members of the board. I have with me tonight Kim Stafford, the LISD Child Nutrition Program Administrator, formerly with Aramark, now currently with LISD. And the item we have for you tonight for your discussion and consideration is proposed compensation adjustments for child nutrition staff. And just as a quick reminder for you guys, while this is one of our 3 contract areas, the majority of the food service staff are LISD employees, all of the campus level child nutrition staff, as well as the catering department and a few other. Aramark actually only provides 17 managerial and administrative staff, and the Aramark staff are not part of this consideration. This is for the LISD staff. Our most recent numbers show that we have approximately 81 openings for this upcoming school year. We have about 30 that are in process within the hiring process, so we hope to make some headway on that, and we certainly are looking at ways to adjust service appropriately to provide the best child nutrition service for our students as we start the new school year. However, to address this, we would like for you guys to consider addressing the current minimum hourly rate of our child nutrition employees. And you guys can see this is outlined in the document before you, but as of right now, the starting rate for a child nutrition employee is $11.72 per hour, which is what was approved previously this spring as part of the 3% increase for our child nutrition staff. After reviewing several area districts and comparable districts, we do note that the upcoming school year, many of them have moved to a significantly higher rate than that. And so the new market rate adjustment we would like for you guys to consider is to move the LISD staff to a minimum starting rate, hourly rate of $13.50 per hour. The potential impact for that would be approximately $855,000 of increased annual cost if fully staffed, and approximately $684,000 in increased annual cost at current staffing levels. In conjunction with that, we would like to consider the potential of 2 temporary incentive payments. One of the things that we did note last year is that resignations in this department did outpace new hires, and so we want to do what we can to incentivize current staff and any staff that we do hire for this year to finish out the school year and to help improve the staffing ratios in this department in particular. As you guys are aware, this department is funded out of the 240 Child Nutrition Fund, and all of these additional costs would be funded by the Child Nutrition Fund. Over the past year, with the shortage in staff, quite a bit of payroll savings was put back into the 240 fund, and so this in that particular those savings would be used to fund these additional costs. And at this time, we will take any questions you guys might have for us.
Since, and this might be a Sheila Smith question, when we did the market rate adjustment for all of our employees back when, is there a reason that these employees, were they included in that or were they not included? And if there are employees going forward, can we make sure that they are? Okay. Thank you.
So, Jeremy, just a real quick math question, I guess. We're proposing a $1,350 entry revised. And so I think these folks work 1,000 hours a year, something like that, 170 days, 6 hours a day is full-time, right?
I think full-time ends up being about 700 to 800.
Okay. So really, if somebody gets both of the incentives, we're basically moving their pay up $1 an hour on the front end and $1 an hour on the back end.
That's correct.
So I really like that because that makes that motivates, right? And it's a true retention without front loading it on the salary schedule. So well done. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And we did have, I know you just mentioned it, but I do recall us talking about there was quite a surplus in this fund, right? And that we were going to have to look to spend the money, right? Because we can't carry a balance. Is that, am I?
That is correct.
Okay. Do you, or Paige, do you want to, how much?
It's about $9.2 million right now, so this will be a part of our spend down plan.
Okay. But wouldn't
And if you think about for future years as well, we feel like that cushion of $9.2 million will let us level set for the next couple of years coming out of all the federally funded programs that we've had in child nutrition, and we think that we'll be able to level set over the next 2 years and be able to afford it.
Okay, thanks.
Are the, and thank you for bringing this forward to us, first of all, but are the ones that have been approved for 22-23, and this may be, I don't know who might know this, did those districts include any incentive plans, or are we an outlier in that? Because that would change how I feel about seeing those, even though that would bump, as Dr. Bonner said, bump them up with that front end and that back end.
Yes, some did. I would say it's probably less than we saw last year, but there are some that's part of their compensation plan as well.
So we really, well, I'll tell you, I think our students deserve greatness, whether it be in the lunchroom or in the classroom. And I am not willing to go below the average. And I think at that $13.50, even though that's a 32, what is it, 32 cents, or what was the average? $13.82? Yeah. I would like to see the numbers at least the average, if not at the $14 rate. So, and that's how I feel. I feel like that they provide a service that, for some kids, a smile and a well-trained person that works with our nutrition staff makes the day, and it continues that excellence of just the rest of the day for LISD, and that's just how I feel. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sassen.
Thank you for bringing this forward. A couple questions. Is this going to impact, I know sometimes it might impact bus drivers, because sometimes the same pool is for bus drivers. Do we know if we might have an exodus of bus drivers hopping over to child nutrition? I know you don't have a crystal ball.
I don't know for sure that we would have an exodus of bus drivers. Certainly our bus company works hard to recruit at the appropriate scale and provide the appropriate compensation in terms of their recruitment bonuses and that sort of thing. They have a little more flexibility in that area than sometimes we do with the 240 fund.
Okay. Second, I would really like to see a list of all the positions that we have in the district that are below $13.50. If we, custodians are listed under here, other assistant teachers, anything else that might be under three. I'm just curious as to what else, because this is definitely, we need to make sure that we can feed the children. But I'm just curious on what other levels we have. Thank you.
Ms. Taylor? So, Jeremy, I'd kind of like Ms. Sells, I'd like to, and Dr. Rapp, I'd like to see us get a little more aggressive on this. A couple things. One is, we're talking about two $1,000 incentives, right? I'm always cautious to incentivize new employees and not incentivize existing employees. We did that with SPED because we needed SPED last year, and it was actually, I think, $2,000 bonus for a SPED teacher, right? So this is a substantial retention bonus, or sign-on bonus retention, whatever you want to call it. I'm all for it, but I think we need to think about how we take care of the people we have and show them that we respect the fact that they've stayed with us. Retention bonuses promote disloyalty, right? We're going to draw people from elsewhere, and we're not showing loyalty to the people we have, and I think it's just something to consider, right? Someone can get $1,000 up front and $1,000 later and make 50 cents less an hour. They'll probably leave another district and come here. So just something to think about. If you guys could be a little more aggressive on that, on the rate, I would appreciate it. And then think about the impact to, I mean, you know, we have over the COVID years heard from child nutrition employees about their compensation. And, you know, I think taking a look at what, if we're doing a good job with the people that we have that stuck with us, would be helpful. Just a quick for the edification of the scouts, what we just talked about here was we have 3 buckets of money the state lets us manage. One is our maintenance and operations, how we pay our employees. Second is our debt service, and so some of the things that Mr. Feit talked about previously, we might be spending from bond sales that we've made. And this is the 3rd bucket the state lets us regulate, which is child nutrition. We bring the money in when you buy lunches at school. That's how we receive money, or when the government provides us some subsidy for lunches for certain students. And so that's the money that we're talking about here. We can only spend money from that fund on things that are related to child nutrition. So we can't make some extra money here and go out and buy a bus or pay a school teacher. Right, we're very limited on how we're able to use those monies. So I appreciate you all kind of reconsidering, maybe being a little more aggressive and addressing some of the other questions that came up. Dr. Bonner, go ahead.
Real quickly, Mr. Turner, maybe I misunderstood, but this retention bonus is aimed at all food service employees, correct?
That is correct. The one retention is specific to existing staff. There's a $1,000 for the return to work, and then a $1,000 at the end of the year. And then for new hires, the retention is phrased a little differently, but it would, you know, in some ways it serves as a recruitment / retention incentive, but so it's aimed at both.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Bonner, thank you for that clarification. So I think that addresses that portion for me, and then if we could think about the rate, a little more aggressive on that, at least for me, I think, and Catherine, that would be insightful. Thank you very much. Ms. Maloney?
Thank you so much. Our next discussion item is the update on the 2022-23 property taxes and tax compression. As you know, we've had some challenges with setting the tax rate for tax year 2022, school year 22-23. We did receive word from the Denton County Appraisal District on July 21st that we would not have our values certified by the 25th deadline, and we have an estimate. But as you know, today was the deadline for us to be able to submit to the state our values, this estimate that we received in order for the state, for the Texas Education Agency to set our maximum compressed tax rate. And so we thought it would be a good idea tonight, because of the complexities of all of these things. I provided a brief for you to review in your spare time, and you can look at those. But then we're going to go through these items to try to put some of these things into perspective. So when we think about property taxes in the M&O budget, and we are just talking about the M&O budget here, you know, property taxes are used for a lot of things. They're used to determine our local collections. They're used to determine the MCR portion of our M&O tax rate, and they're used in the state funding template to determine the district's local share and recapture payment. And so what are the challenges that we're really facing as a district? And, you know, many districts across the state are facing the same challenge. We've talked about this as an advocacy issue. HB 3's move to our current year values presents challenges, and I'll kind of talk about that because of the 3 different laws we're under with property taxes. And then the DCAT issues, receiving an estimate instead of certified values, presents its own unique set of challenges. This timeline is the quick turnaround for when we are to receive our certified values in July, that we have to turn that around to the Texas Education Agency by today. You really have a 1-week turnaround. It's a little simple submission that you turn in. Every school district in the state of Texas has to turn that in, and it spits out immediately what your tax rate is going to be, and ours is going to be not compressed all the way, but almost. It's 80.59, and then we'll add our 5 pennies, so it'll be 85.59. So that's what it's spitting out. We'll get a preliminary estimate on that on August the 7th, and final at the end of the month. So I kind of wanted to look at these three entities, the local appraisal district, and I have to give Purdue Brandon a whole lot of credit for these slides. They've been instrumental in educating many of us across the state for seeing how these things come together. But if you look at the appraisal district, the comptroller's property value appraisal district or assessment division, and then TEA, if you look at the responsibilities, at the appraisal district, they are responsible for appraising the property in the district for ad valorem purposes. The comptroller has to certify that data and then get it to the Texas Education Agency for them to apply in the formula. So TEA on the front end sets your tax rate, and then when the comptroller certifies in February, they determine how it's going to work in the formula. I like this slide a little bit better because it talks about the requirements, and look at the three laws that we're talking about. The appraisal district is under the property tax code, the comptroller's division is under the government code, and TEA is under the education code. And so right now, the situation that we're in, the local appraisal district is within the law to provide an estimate. But when they provide an estimate, when you receive your values, and they're telling us that we'll get certified values the last week in August, you're supposed to have 60 days to be able to set your tax rate. But by the education code, we have to set our tax rate now. And so it really doesn't do any good for us. They're going to set it for us. So do you see the disconnect in operating under three different laws, three different entities where they all play a role together? So just that kind of has become solidified in my mind. So you can just see this continuum of when we talk about property taxes. And I think that for us, especially in the situation that we're in, we don't stop talking about property taxes at budget time. We're going to talk about it along the way. When the appraisal district certifies to the comptroller's office, when the comptroller does their study, and when the comptroller then certifies to the Texas Education Agency. So that's all the things that have to happen, and Amber makes fun of me for this slide, but I go back to it so I can look over and over, and I'm not going to try to present that now, but those are the steps along the way that have to happen for us to be able to determine how that's going to play out in the formula and what our recapture payment becomes based on the students that we serve. When we talk about the comptroller study, the purpose of that study is to ensure the equitable distribution of state financial aid for public education by providing for uniformity in local appraisal practices and in the determination of property values for school districts. So think about all the appraisal districts across the state. I'm sure there probably are some inconsistencies on the way that we do things. I wanted to bring up a couple of things tonight. The two propositions that we just had, the 40K, that they added the 40K exemption, that's for this tax year. It will affect us in this school year. That was pretty easy to calculate for them. Not a real heavy lift across the state. For the over 65, that won't come into play until tax year 23, school year 23-24. There's no methodology for that because what they're trying to give those 65 year-old homeowners, they aren't seeing the benefit of tax compression. So they want to be able to throw in how are they going to benefit from tax compression. No methodology, and have left the appraisal districts to come up with how they're going to do that. So more uncertainty on the horizon in the next school year. And I just learned that when I was listening to my tax webinar on Friday, but I was like, wow, that's even more uncertainty. So when the comptroller interprets these PVS results, they have to say that the study is valid or not. And so you get a valid rating, an invalid, or an invalid rating. And if you have a valid rating that gets certified, you get to use your own values. If it's invalid, you have 2 years of grace. The first year of grace, you get to use your values, your local values, but after the second year, you would be assigned state values. So essentially, in the formula, you might be assigned a higher value than even your local values are. And so that would, for us, if that were ever to happen, that would result in more recapture than we would really be, should have to pay. And we've been within the confidence interval forever and a day, but there are some Denton County school districts that are on year one grace after this school year. The preliminary ratings have come out, and I've listed those school districts that were on level 1 grace. However, when it comes to final ratings, Frisco, Denton, and Carrollton Farmers Branch, they worked that and were able to get them back within the confidence interval. Pilot Point, Aubrey, and Sanger, this will be a pivotal year for them if they were to go on grace again. And I'm not saying that's going to happen to us, but I mean, it's happening right here in our county. And one thing that we need to know, because of what's going on statewide, I want you to draw your attention to the increase in year one grace school districts across the state, grace year 2, and then state assigned value. And so across the bottom of that screen for total invalid studies, you can see since House Bill 3, we've had a pretty big increase of invalid studies across the state. And here's another a comptroller slide that I think is pretty good. They give preliminary invalid studies, and then appraisal districts really go to work to try to get them back within the confidence interval, And so you can see that the green represents when they came to final, and that'll be what happens to 3 of our counterparts here in the county. So what if my district's local values change after the final PVS? Just like we've talked about in our board workshops and in our retreat, we will be eligible to do a taxable value audit on each of these school years, and we know that we'll be recovering some funds because of that. An audit starts the flow of the values from the appraisal district to TEA over again. You can do 3 within 1 year, so we will be exercising that right. We've done 1. We'll do as many as we're able to do for the tax years in question where we believe that we did not receive the full amount of our state funding. So those are some of the things that audits can include. It's very complex work, and as you know, we have to utilize a firm to help us do that, but we have to pay that firm to a percentage of anything that we recover. So I know this is a little bit busy of a slide, but it's important key numbers that we have to look at in those July 25th certified values are, in our case, an estimate, but we'll be looking at our certified values in August, at the end of August when we get those. You look at your market value, the value of all property, that's the sticker shock that the taxpayers are seeing. Then you look at the net taxable, and that's what the data point that we send to TEA to set the tax rate. It takes out your productivity loss. It takes out the homestead cap. That's that 10, no taxpayer is going to pay 10% more than they paid in the year before. And it's going to take out your exemptions. But here's the kicker. We collect our taxes and use our tax collection number based on the freeze-adjusted taxable. So that's going to take out anything that's frozen, over 65, disabled, things like that. And so this is the data point that Michelle French at the collections office or the tax office will use to determine our levy. And they've been, Amber can testify, they have just been so helpful to us to help us at budget time, and I wanted to be able to say that. So I know that's a lot, and I'll open it up for questions.
That was a lot. I've got a few questions, and certainly I'm a former history teacher, so if I've misunderstood anything, I hope you'll correct me along the way. It's discouraging that we're getting an estimate of what should be our certified tax roll. What percentage estimate? I know we saw about 90%. Is that where it landed?
Yes, it was for the whole county. on the 21st, we had 24% of our property still under protest. By the 25th, it was down to 12% of our properties that were still.
And so do you anticipate when we do get our certified roll that there will be an increase in property values in the district?
I think there will probably be a decrease. And so what that would have done, and we're going to present on that and be real transparent, we have our tax rate. We have to use the tax rate we're going with. But if we would have had a decrease, that would have resulted in a higher tax rate, which would have resulted in
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going. So our tax rate would have been higher.
Yes.
Then what would that do to recapture? And if I'm getting ahead of the story, stop me.
Well, on the collection side for debt service, we lost out on those collections. I mean, that's a loss. You're never going to recover that. On the M&O side, you have to just do it. You have to do it in the audit. And you have to think about this. If your values are coming down and your tax rate's going up, that's not going to make much of a difference on the M&O side until you get to certification in February. But I mean, one other angle that we really haven't looked at is, well, no, it wouldn't affect the INS side. What am I saying? I'm saying no. It's just the M&O. But if the taxable values are coming down and the rate's going up, that's not going to be it's not going to play a big role in your collections.
So you said we had 60 days we had an August 1 reporting date, and then we have 60 days. We're getting cut down to 30 days, correct?
Right.
So 8/1 to 10/1, so we're getting cut in half based on.
We already have our tax rate. So waiting the 60 days is a moot point because by TEA, that's what I'm saying. The law, the TEA says that this is our tax rate. So.
And then I have one last question. I appreciate y'all's patience. Is an estimate? I got lost on the invalid piece. The valid and the invalid. Does an estimate render an invalid rating?
No, it does not, because they will when they certify, they will have their certified roll by the end of August, and then in September they will certify to the comptroller's office. And so, no, it won't have any impact on that. They have to have an estimate for the comptroller's office. I mean, a certified roll for the comptroller's office.
Okay, thank you very much.
We're losing some scouts on this one, Ms. Maloney.
I'm losing myself.
Really, the only thing that I wanted to say at this point is I just appreciate, I know that, and Dr. Rapp has kept us, up to date in a lot of our, updates about what you guys have been doing. And it's just, this is such a crazy situation. And I really hope that we can, I appreciate your work on it and in your team and trying to figure all this out and advocate for us. And I do hope that this is one of those things that we can explain to our legislators, what this is doing to schools. I know they're trying to, we all want lower property taxes, but I mean, this is just not a thought out process, and it's just a mess. So that's my.
Thank you, Ms. Lasan. Ms. Sells?
Right, so I don't forget. And some of these questions probably don't have an answer, but just something to digest on. It amazes me in this day and time that we cannot have policies that result in accurate, efficient, and expedient procedures that get it right the first time for us. And I can't tell you how disappointed I am in that. But I love the fact that you were sitting in that chair and you were able to not only explain it to us, but you're able to explain it to those who we serve. And so I appreciate that, and I thank you for that. I would love to know, and this may not be something that you're ever able to estimate, but how much time and effort does it take our employees to go back and do it again, and do it again, and do it again? It just begalls me to think of where that time and energy and effort could have been set toward. So not really an answer, just more of a statement, I guess. How long does it take once we do that audit, I guess from that first time that we are setting the tax rate and we're setting these, this is where we're going to sit, and then you got to go back and do that audit, and then we recover that. How long does that process take? And I know you've said before, I can't remember.
The district would have been eligible at September settle up last year to do the audit that we're going to get the money back on for the 2020 tax year. That would have been the 2021 school year. That's the $9.2 million that we're projecting that we're going to get back. That was already finalized, so we would have been eligible for that. For the tax year 21, for the 21-22, we're going to wait till settle up in September when our student attendance data goes into the system and it gets calculated into the system, and so we'll file that audit. So we've already filed the 2021 audit because we had all of that information ready to go, and then so technically it's a year in arrears. We're going to budget for both of those revenue line items in the 22-23 school year.
And this is probably a facetious question.
And you'll see that on Wednesday.
But is LISD compensated with interest for the use of our taxpayers' funds during that time? And so that's another you don't have to answer. But thank you.
I greatly appreciate all of the work that you have done on this. It's been phenomenal. My question is, HB3 was designed to increase the basic allotment, change the school finance formula, increase it one time, basic allotment, but also to help property taxes. And this is anti-productive. It's an unintended consequence of HB3 that I don't believe they understood at the time, because the way that it is now, are we not going to have a higher tax rate potentially than we should?
Right.
Which doesn't help our homeowners. Right. So it's not the way HB3 was designed, and we need to make sure to emphasize that to our legislators. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
I feel like all my questions have been answered by the time it got to me. I also want to thank you for your diligence, and I know you met with me separately, and thank you for answering those questions. I guess I'm unclear about, you had a slide that was what to know, and I wanted you to revisit that. Maybe it was the first one.
Okay. That was second to the last. Let's see. Was it that one?
No, I think it may have been the next one then. I guess I'm trying to understand, yes.
Okay.
What happens when the value, I guess, is invalid. And I think I understood that you to say that if it's invalid, that our rates are set at the state level, and that those could be
the
higher.
values are set at so the comptroller would come in and say your local values that your appraisal district certified are too low.
Okay.
You've given too many protests. You've granted too many things, and I've dealt with a lot of smaller counties, and it happens in that way, and they'll say, you are going to get 2 years, you get to be on probation, but after 2 years in a row, you're going to be assigned your state values, and that higher value is going to go into the state funding formula, and the higher that value is,
the more recapture.
The more recapture for a district like us.
How do you recapture that? Would that just result in an increased tax rate for us? Or?
No, you have to go back and get it on these audits, and you'll see when we do the budget presentation that we have a separate revenue line item that is recovering that money. So in that $9.2 million that we would recover, our recapture payment would have been probably about that much less.
I got you.
In that year.
Okay. And then my next question is related to the firm that does the taxable value audit. I might not be saying it correctly, but have we used them before?
No, this is they were one of our approved vendors
or whatever, but they have experience, I guess, with other school districts.
Yes.
What percentage do they receive as contingency?
7%.
Okay.
And you'll see that in the presentation also on Wednesday that we have to budget for that as an expenditure.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
You bet. And I did want to clarify, I was making it sound like if the values came down, we would collect less debt service. So maybe one little silver lining with these higher values, we collect a little more money on the debt service side. So.
I will just take this moment to get on my soapbox about local control. If we had the ability to set our own tax rate, we could use certified values because we wouldn't have to do it on TEA's timeline. We would have, please correct me if I'm wrong, we would actually have up until September 30th where we would have certified values.
We would have if let's say that they certify on August 25th, we would have 60 days.
From that date.
From that day.
So I think that this is a way that local control was taken away from local taxing entities. I think that it is very telling that the state is probably going to set a higher tax rate than your local board would have, because we would have had the correct and proper information to do it. So I'll step down from my soapbox.
Thank you, Ms. Prosnick. Let me just say one thing as I'm kind of thinking through some comments here. Ms. Taylor, one other point, when the collections, we do have a law firm that does collections as well, and they receive compensation for that. I think everybody's asked great questions. There's a lot to this in the undercurrent that those of us, and I'm sure there are people from the appraisal district watching this meeting, this, for me, is highlighting a little bit of the efficacy and ability of both the appraisal district and, to Ms. Prosnick's point, and I think Ms. Hassett's point, the construct of the way that we get compensated under the constitutional statement of it shall be the duty of the legislature to make suitable provision for. So with that, these being leading indicators, I guess, of some ISDs, I was a bit surprised. So Frisco, Denton, and CFB have now been recovered or moved out of that?
At the appraisal district meeting, it was reported that when they have final certification in September and the comptroller comes out with the final survey, that those three will be in the confidence interval.
Okay. And are we going to talk about budget Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay. And then I would just leave it with this, because Ms. Hassett makes a great point as it relates to the legislative delegation. I think Jenny was saying the same thing. The point at which to watch our video tonight is 6:40 p.m. To start watching when Ms. Maloney went through the explanation of what's going on and why we're in this bit of a predicament. And I really appreciate over the last 3 years, staff helping educate us more every year and educate our community on what's going on with the appraisal district, what's going on with their taxes. Last night I watched Mr. Gardner's presentation that Mr. Cox sent us on some of the values of homes. When Christy and I heard the senior members of the board were elected, the average home for existing homes was about $260,000, $270,000. And that's what we would talk about. Now we're talking about in the high fours. An average new home in LISD, across all of LISD, is $545,000. And we're still in a very complicated, and probably most complicated situation we've ever been in as it relates to looking at our income. Part of that because we move into recapture, I think, but that recapture is not just about students, it's about the valuation. So these are so connected together. And Paige, really, I agree with Ms. Sells. Thank you for digging into this and your staff, educating us. And we've got a bit of a journey to walk through here together yet, but thank you for putting all this together for us. And we look forward to more discussion on this on Wednesday. Anybody else?
I just want to echo my thanks as well to Paige, and Ms. Sells, you asked about the time for staff, and I do want to speak to that for a second, because there is no doubt in trying to figure out what is our revenue going to be that you all have to work with. Every penny, every dollar, every type of value matters, whether it's the freeze-adjusted values and what those are going to be, or it's the certified estimate or the certified values. And it makes it very challenging for you all to make decisions on how much raise can you give staff and what can you do for children when we cannot get an accurate value in terms of what we're basing our decisions on, because that impacts our recapture payment, that impacts our tax rate, and that impacts how much revenue we're going to be able to calculate. So we would look forward to increased partnership in working with the appraisal district on what our values are going to be, because at the end of the day, that helps us serve kids and it helps us get our revenue correct so that we can make the best decisions for the school district.
Thank you, Dr. Rapp. Appreciate that. Ms. Maloney, I think you're still up.
Yes, on to another journey that we've been on. So our next agenda item is our board policy CCA local revenue sources bond issues. This is our first reading based on committee recommendations and the 22-23 debt management plan. So as you know, our board committees were determined earlier this summer, and it was determined that the Board of Trustees would establish a debt strategy committee. The task of this committee was to draft a new CCA local policy to include a possible CCA regulation in order to outline the district's debt management procedures. So in June, the board committee assignments were made, and Dr. Bonner was selected as the chair of this committee, with Mrs. Hassett and Mrs. Prosnick serving as members. And we have met 2 different times, but we've gone back and forth with edits and feedback and many, many different things. So we agreed this evening that I would provide, and you have a purple folder. Actually, I think it'll be easier to go through this first read if you use your purple folder. What we did, I want to get to one page that I need. So what I've got is a guide document. It's called a guidance document, and we're going to go through that. And I'll take us through the policy, and then I think that our committee members have prepared a statement that they'll want to share after I get through kind of the highlights and if I miss anything. So in this policy, we've separated out the different sections. And for purpose, first of all, I just wanted to say that we agreed upon, Ms. Hassett brought it to our attention that, through some of the analysis of the other policies that other districts are using, that we really didn't need a regulation. We could just make the policy our CCA local and just move that forward and then not have to pay the TASB fee for having a regulation in there. And so we decided to just use this as our local policy. So when we look at purpose, we just wanted a real simple statement of what we were really trying to do. And so that is there for you. For scope, originally we were just considering debt service funds, but we decided that, we've seen a lot go on lately in districts where people have taken maintenance tax notes. So we really wanted to say that it was debt instruments that we could not repay with current year revenues. So we spent some time on that. When we get down to the objectives, the debt management objectives, they outline the objectives of the district's debt management plan to include short and long-term planning parameters. And those are pretty standard objectives that we saw across the policies that we considered. And so not a huge amount of discussion in that area at all. It's pretty standard language, whether if you see it in a regulation or a local policy, or if someone even has that not in their TASB policy. When we get down into duties and responsibilities, really what we're trying to say here is that we're going to review this on an annual basis with the board. And so it outlines the responsibilities of the administration in monitoring the debt management plan to include its review on an annual basis. We'll take it to the superintendent's cabinet, but the main thing is that we want to bring this in accordance with budget adoption. And there was real attention with our committee that we wanted to look at fees, and we really wanted to get it codified in here that we would avoid any duplication of services and or possible fees if we were able to do that. So you'll see that in the third paragraph under duties and responsibilities. So in allowable purposes, I would call your attention to the reimbursement resolution. That's something we decided to add to add in here. We only saw it in a couple of other different policies, but this is one of those things like you can reimburse yourself for capital expenses if you haven't done your sale yet. So we wanted to put that in there. The guidelines for amortization of debt obligation, this is where you're going to go into your useful life parameters to determine if you're going to do a short-term or a long-term capital improvement project. And so we had a little discussion there, nothing major. But if you get to page 4, here's where we had a lot of discussion. And when we look at the composition of debt portfolio, and when you're looking at traditional fixed rate debt and variable rate debt, what we really want to drive home here is under that traditional fixed rate debt, I'm going to read the last sentence because it's very important. Issuance of traditional fixed rate debt should be utilized for substantially all debt issuance unless a proven benefit to district taxpayers may be accomplished otherwise. We went back and forth. Did we want to put variable rate in there? Probably wouldn't be a good idea right now, but we didn't want to tie the district's hands in the future. And so you'll notice that that has to have board approval if you are going to, I mean, it has to come as a separate item if you're going to use variable rate debt, and it can never exceed 10% of the entire portfolio. So we felt like that was enough guardrails on that to keep it in there, although we kind of felt like, myself and as the committee, we probably would not use variable rate debt probably in our tenure. Then we have the whole section on guidelines for refunding debt obligations. Some of the policies that we looked at did not define what refunding is. The Northside policy that we used, that we looked at, had a real nice section on that, and Christie's recommended that we put that in there and define out those things for a refund. And then the next section is the parameters or criteria that we would be used to determine if we are going to do a refund. And I would, on page 5 of 12, if you look under criteria 1, the criteria to be utilized for refunding for interest cost savings, on number 2, when you're talking about negative arbitrage, originally, did we have 40% in there? It was 50%, wasn't it? But this is the first time we did read, we did 50, then we got to 40, then we said, hey, let's look at what we've done in the past. And so on page 68 in your board book, and I did not print that out, but it's 68 in your board book, it's an analysis of our past refunding, and we had never, 25.250 was the highest we ever went, so we just agreed that we would just do 30. We felt comfortable with that. And so that we had a lot of discussion over that and a lot of analysis over that. So kudos to the committee for getting that in there. Okay. When we get down to, and then of course there's criteria utilized for if you're restructuring as well on a refund. Method of sale to be utilized. This differentiates between competitive and negotiated sales with defining parameters for each of those. Pretty standard. We didn't have a whole lot of discussion about that. Most policies included that information. The credit ratings and credit enhancement, same thing. It provides credit rating overview, enhancements, and parameters for securing a rating. That was pretty standard. Big section for selection of consultants and underwriters. We've got the consultants there, but it also is going to outline. I want you to go to page 9 of 12, and you can see at the top, financial advisor, bond counsel, demographer. Those are standard in any debt management policy that you look at across the state. But for underwriters, we spent a lot of time with this. And if you look at that first sentence, we landed on the district administration may select a pool of qualified firms to serve as senior manager and/or co-manager, or utilize an RFQ process for selection. The underwriting pool shall be approved by the Board of Trustees on an annual basis before or at the time of budget. And once we get through this tonight and can bring this hopefully to action at the end of August, we may have to talk about having a separate time, because we'll want to bring those underwriters to you every year at budget time. I don't even know that we would need underwriters this year. It's looking highly unlikely. We will most likely just do defeasance, but you know, we want to bring all of our possibilities in August, our underwriters, and the review of this policy on an annual basis. So look, coming soon to a board update near you. So we do have the parameters for the selection and the evaluation of performance of underwriters. And if you look on page 11 through 12, I wanted to keep the variable rate, if we ever were to go down that route, doubtful, but I wanted that underwriter section to be separate. And so we kept that. And then the last section is the ongoing debt management practices. And it's pretty standard language. It's investment of debt proceeds, compliance with federal arbitrage rebate regulations, and then just continuing disclosure requirements on your debt management. So I will defer to the committee.
Did the committee want to speak first? Or Dr. Bond, go ahead.
I'll jump in. First off, I'd like to thank Ms. Hassett and Ms. Prosnick because this has really been about a year in the making, right? I think we sat down maybe individually and talked about what our former board policy CCA was, which it was a page and a half. And normally, as a practitioner, not a board member, you don't want necessarily a lot of policy because it kind of restricts you and puts handcuffs on you. Well, in financial matters, I think you want those handcuffs, right? And so over the course of the last few weeks, under Ms. Maloney's guidance, we augmented the policy to cover the guardrails and guidelines that we've been talking about, to provide some structure to the debt management of the district. And so just a couple of things that were mentioned, right, with regard to fees. What is our practice on fees? I know that's come up at the board level in the past. You know, are we getting a good deal? And so there's some structure there now. Same thing on something we haven't done with regard to a calendar of bond events coming to the board. You know, maybe we did it in October last time, or maybe we did it in April, but we didn't know at the beginning of the year. And so I just really appreciate that. Just like budget needs a calendar, bond work needs a calendar as well, and we'll have that now. Also, you heard work on the vendors, and then the length of the debt instrument, or excuse me, the length of the debt incurred and the debt instruments used. And so I just think it's a very comprehensive policy. I've probably taken up too much time, but I'm just so thankful to see it come to fruition. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bonner.
I want to take a moment and thank John Martin because he helped immensely in giving guidance and his professional opinion on what we were working on, and I appreciate his input and his help. And your, Ms. Maloney, your work on this has been a long dream of mine that we had this. And as I said in the very beginning, I think this empowers your CFO. I don't think it handcuffs your CFO at all. I think it empowers them to know exactly what the parameters of the district are. And I'm looking forward to the board having that overview in August of what everything that is coming forward. I think it helps at budget time. Even though we're looking more at the M&O side when we sit down, I think that having a full and complete picture will be very helpful to the board.
Ms. Sells?
I just want to say thank you to the board, or to the board committee that actually did this. And I was thinking, I like your word, empower. I was thinking of it is a nugget of power that these policies give. And that's not only our employees, as Dr. Bonner said, as an employee, sometimes you look at these rules and you think, oh, you know, but it really is not only for our employees, but even for future boards to have a more robust system as this. And it gives all of us the information that we need to move forward in what is best for the district, what's best for our taxpayers, and ultimately what's best for our students. So I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
I just wanted to reiterate too, thank you so much to the committee for your hard work and your diligence. Very comprehensive policy. I think having Mr. Bonner speak first probably answered my questions, because as a new board member, I was wondering, did you create this out of thin air, or was there some draft for it? It sounds like there was a draft, even though it was a 1 or 2 pages. And then I wanted to know, and maybe Ms. Prosing, you answered that, if it had been reviewed maybe by an outside consultant, because you had, I guess there was some mention of it here, and you thanked someone. So just wanted to.
I thank John Martin. I should say he is our FA, our financial advisor, and he was very helpful in looking at it. And I'm going to answer your other question. I'm going to steal Dr. Bonner's thunder. So we looked at other districts who do have debt policy, and we looked at what they had. And as I like to say, we put the LISD shine on it, which is we took the best parts and we kept them, and then we put the parameters in that fit our district. An example would be the arbitrage at 30%. Another example would be that in policy it says that we will not do debt longer than 20 years.
And we have run it by our inside counsel, and we'll run it by outside counsel before we bring it to a vote, of course.
Okay, thank you. This is great, you guys. This reminds me a little bit of when we did the audit committee. You know, we had this idea 4 or 5 years ago. Christy brought up, Jenny and I, on the audit committee. Christy brought up some stuff on debt service. Jenny's been very vocal about it. Dr. Bonner's been vocal. So when I appointed this committee, quite frankly, it was easy because I just went to the most vocal people on the board about this issue. But Ms. Lamoni, I mean, you did a lot of pre-work for them. And, you know, one of the things I think, Ms. Taylor, we're always going to look at other districts, what they've done, TASB. Plagiarism is alive and well in our business. Absolutely. But we do tend to shine it up a little bit. And I would say, too, Dr. Rapp, Lori, this is what a performance-driven organization looks like, what you guys are doing here. This is going to have sustainability well beyond most of us unpaid people sitting at this table. And so the impact of this will be a long time. And I think we should as well give kudos to boards in the past and staff and how they've managed debt service in LISD. We've never gone more than 20 years on a bond debt service. We have tried to do refunding as much as possible. We had some times where, you know, we just missed it by a couple days, and, you know, that's not even just a few months ago. That happened 5-6 years ago. We just missed it by a couple days. So this will, I think, put in motion a process that has triggers in it that will protect us, allow us to be a little more efficient, and give you some latitude as well as you bring things forward. So this is a great document. What I would encourage is that everybody on the board read it, so that if it does come back, let's say on the 29th, it's going to come back next week?
No, it's coming with the budget on August 29th, because what we're doing is putting together all the possible resolutions that we foresee for the 22-23 school year.
Okay, good, because I just looked at consent for the 8th and I didn't see it. So it's a lot for those of us that weren't on the committee, it's a lot to read and absorb, and I think we should read it and absorb it. So thank you, all of you, for the work you did on this. Appreciate it. You got one more? Two more? Oh, yeah, 2 more. Consent review.
Yes. Thank you so much. As you know, we've been really trying to summarize our consent agenda and be able to give not only our internal staff, but you guys a Cliff Notes version of what's coming down the pike in the consent agenda. So we've categorized these as we always do, so the last time and this time, into new bids, purchases, programs, and initiatives, annual purchases, and other business office items. So the first 2 are the 2 that we'll be talking about today. So if you'll turn to your consent agenda preview, and then they'll all be coming back to you on August the 8th. Under new bids, purchases, programs, and initiative, as we've already talked about, we have the proposed compensation adjustments to child nutrition. We have the safety and threat assessment management solution, and the dollar amount there. We have our cyber insurance increase with the explanation on due to the rise in the risks of cyber attacks. We have event staffing solutions, which we actually moved to the discussion item. We'll do that after this, so that's on here. Some EdFi data interoperability for products and services for many of our various operating systems coming back to you. With changes in the insurance market, we had to put the consulting services for all of those things there that are listed there, and the price is down below. Under annual purchases, we have for the online applicant tracking systems and other related services, this was our bundle of Frontline, ESC 11, and ESC 10 for getting our applications out there so that we can secure staff. We know that that is such a priority for us at this time. Annual agreements for external legal services. As you know, we use our internal counsel for many of our things, but we do have to go to outside law firms on those highly specialized legal matters like new construction, real estate, special ed, et cetera. And then property and casualty insurance, we still working that one through. And then the annual report on LISD membership related fees with purchasing cooperative contracts, and that's by statute has to come before you. So that is the consent agenda preview.
Sheila?
I don't know if I agree with the consent agenda, and maybe this is just my thought, and I don't even know if it's really related, and maybe it's related to the budget presentation, but understanding how to marry increases that you know that you need and that you should approve when, I guess, the budget hasn't been finalized, and also projected for such a huge deficit. So maybe that's just a comment.
Well, I think we can address it. It's an important thing for us to address. So there are, but most districts are on our schedule of approving a budget, as are municipalities. Some districts actually do their budget, I think, July 1st or something like that, like a Denton or others. And so they're able to make their final decision on their INS tax rate and other things, about that same time, even though they don't have to by law until August. We always approve our raises before teachers have to make decisions on where they're going to work within their contracts. And so we want to this year we got the raises approved a couple months earlier, thanks to Dr. Bonner and others bringing it forward, saying, hey, we need to respond, other districts are responding. But that's with intentionality. So we know kind of generally where we're going to be from an income perspective, from a debt perspective. What we don't know is how the year is going to close out. So did we take more out of our fund balance than we expected? Up until about 3 years ago, it was, how much more did we put in that we didn't expect to? In some cases, we saved $18 million. And so we were in a different ballgame. But it is one where we do make a conscious decision at that point in time, anticipating, because of the way the income works, that we're going to have a deficit. We're going to have to fund this through a deficit. And that's the only thing that we really are committing to by board vote until we do the budget. Everything else will be fall in line, the 29th when we vote, right? Is that fair kind of summary?
Yeah, I think if I may just a little bit, that ultimately when we brought the initial budget forward in the spring, there were things known at that time that we were thinking we would need to build into the budget. And so that was the conversation at that time to see what's the tolerance, if you will, we're going to have a budget assumption around increases in fuel, increases in insurance, right? And the thing you see here, you see some of our response to the safety and security items. So when we see the budget on Wednesday, you will see now an increase built into the budget that we all know that we are wanting to move forward with due to safety and security. Some of these other increases you'll see really happen as a result of people doing different things with their local budgets, right? So you might reduce spending on one thing in order to accomplish it in something else if you've got a technology item coming forward, or you just adjust budget pieces there. If we were adding significantly to some department's budget, then I would need to be bringing that forward way back when in the spring as one of the budget increases, because that's really where we talk about what are the things that are leading to this deficit budget, okay?
Thank you so much. I realize some of this is, new board member, and then the other part is my accountant brain and my conservatism, so.
No problem. Anybody else have any questions on the consent? All right, good, let's go. This is the last item for you.
Yes.
Get ready, Mr. Koch, you're up next.
Call Mr. Koch and Mr. Martin, and our last...
You're going to talk about this one, too.
Our last...
Mr. Koch, he's behind you. I forgot he's going to talk about it.
Our last item this evening in the finance...
While they're coming up, as everyone knows, of course, we've been responding to the safety and security items that we had on our list to make it through. I think the team's doing a great job with getting those wheels in motion, and this was one of those things on the list, is our stadium operations called Event Staffing Solutions, and we work to address in your documents that this will allow us to increase our oversight at our stadiums, but also still ensure that we're working to take care of utilizing LISD employees as well. I know that was some of the question in the past, and so this is an opportunity to talk about those, any of those questions also as we're looking at bringing this item forward on Monday the 8th.
Good evening, President Miller, members of the board, Dr. Rapp. As noted, we looked at putting out an RFP to find out if there was any interested parties in providing staffing at our stadiums and any other events on an as-needed basis. We did get numerous responses. We were pleased with the interest in LISD. We feel like we've got a group that has had experience working at other school districts and has had success in running those operations on an as-needed basis. So from there, I can pass it on to Ms. Lyles and Mr. Koch.
I think by discussing this and having it as an option, I think it brings a different element of safety and security to our stadiums. It allows our current administrators to focus on the student section, the performing students there, and not have to watch back gates or different areas and then take them away from their day-to-day operations during the school day, then carry over into the Friday evening event. So I think it allows us to maximize our LISD administrators for the safety and security of the spectators and the students there in that venue.
Hello, everybody. I would just like to add that, some of the points of interest that we are excited about is having consistent procedures at all 5 stadiums. And that, to me, is a huge, important factor for us to be consistent and everyone start understanding the processes that every time you enter an LISD stadium, it's going to be the same type of setting that you would see no matter the venue. I also feel like it's important to ensure the safety of the athletes, the coaches, and the officials that are on the field, and if we're able to have better control on who is on the field, who needs to be on the field, and just the presence of extra bodies will definitely enhance the security of our games, and the visibility just alone will have a good presence. And the fact that they can do a better job on implementing no food and drink policy, just different things that people try to do and bring into our stadiums. We've had all kinds of interesting things that are been tried to be brought in at different games, and it just will have a more unified front with middle school, sub-varsity, and varsity games.
I know one of the things that came up the last time this came around was the possibility of money changing hands. Now with online ticketing, you're not having an outside company in possession of money that belongs to us, and so that no longer would be an issue at this time. And I just wanted to address that as well.
Dr. Rapp, I might add that in other area districts that utilize a service like this, they utilize a service and then they reduce the police presence. LISD is not going to do that. We're going to maintain the same police presence that we had last year moving forward. So adding the same police presence, adding a staffing, stadium staffing solution, and then the campus administrators, and then campuses can still hire additional campus folks to operate those nights. I think we have an opportunity to really show the community that our stadiums are important, our events are important, and safety and security is also important.
We did have a chance, you actually jogged my memory on this, as we met with our police chiefs over the past month and going through items that are on our list to do when it comes to safety and security. This was one of the ones we talked with them about, and they were all very receptive to this idea as well. So,
thank you. Ms. Brosnick?
What will they look like? And I mean this I know what staff wear, right? They usually wear their school shirt and so forth, and they have their LISD badge, and they're identifiable. What will someone coming to the stadium see?
They will have a type shirt that says event staff that's loud, color, bold. They will be highly noticeable and present because of what their staffing outfit will be. I also would like to add is we are going to maintain a certain number of workers that we currently use in the stadium, and then obviously if they want to add from the campus or we have positions that we can fill with that company, then they're surely going to be the first ones we're going to go to for those spots. But we do still want the presence of our campus workers, like the stadium manager will work with that supervisor from the company because they have the keys and the access and those things. We want someone from the campus at the elevator. We want someone at the pass gate from the campus. The company that we're wanting to utilize will be basically scanning. They will be the people at the kiosk that people, when they come up and scan their ticket, they will be there to make sure that food and drink isn't being brought in. All those things, they're there to monitor. We will have ushers in the stadium stands to help with the ROTC and the school admin to have a more presence of just on both the home and the visitor side. We will also have an extra 6 people for gate security of entrances that are not supposed to be entered. Basically, unmanned gates or unmanned holes that people somehow find a way to get in, and so we'll have a better presence. And I know Matt Garrett and I are going to identify, because we know in all 5 stadiums those places that people just seem to pop into the stadium somehow, and so we will definitely, each stadium will have its different little spots of interest, but that's what it will look like. Is it will have we'll have people at the team and the visitor locker room areas in those areas to make sure that those areas are safe if people are in and out of those during halftime, whatever, pregame, things like that.
We can definitely follow up with in our answers to board questions. What will they be wearing? What will distinguish them? Right. I think we can reach back out and get that as well to provide to you.
And this is only for our stadiums. This is not for our multi-purpose buildings or our pools at this time?
No.
Okay.
Yes, I just want to make sure that we're thinking ahead in relaying the message to our students and our parents, as well as those districts that bring students and parents into our stadiums, that this is, if we approve this, that this is what we're doing moving forward, and that there be no toleration, that these are our employees and we expect compliance if they ask you to do something.
Yes, that's a great point. I know that Christy Lyles and Amanda Drinkwater put together a package prior to visiting teams coming in about what to expect, where to park, what it's going to look like, and so that added element will be included in there so that those big groups can be communicated with prior to their arrival.
So even our own students and parents, especially as we send information out, if that could be included, that these aren't just random people that just we've assigned there.
That's right.
Thank you.
Good point.
I was going to make sure to address that because I know boosters can probably help, but not all the parents happen to always read the booster email, so making sure we communicate with the parents with the new procedures. That'd be great. And I also wanted to make sure that we reinforce that priority hiring will be allowed for any current or former LISD employee who has worked at a venue. So making sure that we've addressed that issue too, make sure the staff knows that. Great job, love this idea. And you've already ticked off one of the items for the internal audit committee's co-curricular activities by working on this way prior to that audit. And we haven't even brought it to the board yet. So you've already finished one. Yay.
I just want to say this is an excellent idea, maybe because I'm the parent of an athlete and I see what happens at some of these stadiums and games. I just wanted to confirm that this is just for football games. Is that correct? Not soccer or, because are those at the stadiums? I guess I'm not sure.
Mr. Martin, you'll be able to give some details on this, but it's for our stadium use. But I think that the way that it's worded, it could be expanded if we see a need at our multi-purpose facilities or our other venues. But as it stands right now, we're looking to really take this giant bite of stadium security as we enter into the football season.
Hey, thank you for all your work on this. I just want to make a statement publicly. This is about safety and security. Dr. Rapp talked about this in her report earlier with the Rovers. We've, without going into a lot of detail, clearly are very focused on safety and security in LISD and doing anything we can, whether people know about it or not, to plug some holes. There are some holes in this. And I'm going to share those with Dr. Rapp and you all and Matt Garrett privately, where I think they could fix some things. But the one thing I would offer is, in the current climate, till we see what's happening, being on a booster club doesn't entitle someone to be on the field. We have former athletes coming back and are on the field, and you see it all the time. Hey, move everybody back, right? And I've been on the field too. And then, you got a bunch of people, you're talking like, oh, it's the dad of the quarterback or whatever. And what? Right? So first, from a safety and security perspective, and by the way, it's just safety for the athletes too. Lots of people over there, kids are coming rolling, and someone's going to get hurt if they haven't already. So if I just have some observations that I'll share privately, and then I think you guys are really already probably going to fix those things. But thank you for bringing this forward to us in partnership with the broader set of solutions we're looking at.
And a comment that was made me think, how will this affect rentals of our stadiums? Will this be something that we require those who rent our stadiums? Have we even thought about that? And so if we could maybe visit that, and I would like, because here's what I'd like. Anybody who visits our stadium, we set a standard, and that's our stadium. If you're going to be in our stadium, this is the standard we have, whether it's for our use or someone else's use. And so if that involves revisiting stadium rental policy to include a portion of this cost to be included or to calculate what that would be for a rental and the times, then I would really love to see something like that, because I think that it's great if we're going to pay for this for our events, but why are we paying for somebody else's rental if they are doing that? So.
And I would say, absolutely yes. I mean, if they want to rent our facilities, I obviously have to go through that rental process, but we would also require, this is the expectation for your event, and this is what we would provide depending on what the event is and how many of the security people they would be, but I agree. It would have to be a part of anything that's going on, whether it's us or someone renting the facility, that would be part of their rental agreement.
I would just add on to that, if you, and Craig, maybe you guys could look at the pricing on this, but I think we're talking about varsity football games, right? So I don't know, is this all soccer? Right, but does it include soccer? Does it include track? I mean, so we're just talking about football games. Yeah. I think we need to explore that for consideration.
Definitely, once we are able to get, if upon approval, should we be using this fall with football, that allows us to see how this all works, and the abilities written in the contract the way it is to be able to expand it to other venues and other sports.
I did notice a clear bag policy is recommended. Is that something we are going to be considering?
Thank you for that question. You know, that's not something that we would have discussed yet with this company, so that would be conversation to come, and we definitely would keep you all up to speed about what do we see the company recommending and what would that look and sound like.
Great, thank you. Mr. Koz, you're going to stick around?
Yes, I am.
All right. Thanks, Christy. Thanks, Craig.
All right, as other people are joining Mr. Kosh up here, Mr. Plunkett and Mr. Garrett, and somehow Brim's not coming up either on graduation? No? Okay. They're the messengers of your, okay, well then never mind.
We'll just call her out from here.
There you go. It's already happened. I've already done it. So anyway, we wanted, you know, one of the things with the board topics, year-at-a-glance documents that we've been able to do is, as we look at what consent items are on the agenda coming forward, we're able to look at some things and then allow some conversation around those things before they come forward. And we thought a review of the graduation venue and just some information would be helpful in considering before this came forward to the board. So thank y'all.
So the venue debrief graduation, we're going to talk a little bit about the venue at UNT, some of the inner workings. And I've said this before, maybe to some of you, this is kind of considered the Super Bowl of the school world, with a lot of moving parts from the campuses. Elementary teachers have prepared the students for this, the high school students, the administrators, and then Matt Garrett and Andy Plunkett making sure that this thing happens. So turn it on. So just some data points about the facility. The capacity is 9,700. Floor capacity per the fire marshal is 1,060. Safety and security, and there's a slide later on to get into it a little bit deeper about some of those things, but only the graduates are screened. There's a clear bag policy for the spectators coming in. Parking is limited. It got better when they took down, I guess, Fouts Field, but it's still limited and stretched out quite a bit. And then tickets are required for spectators. UNT requires tickets for graduation classes over the size of 950. So let's talk about the limit of that 1,060 individuals on the floor. This includes graduates, adult staff members to help guide and supervise those graduates, special education support staff for those that need that as well. It does not include stage guests. So let's just take Lewisville High School, for instance. They had to have 950 students on the stage and then 110 staff members to help with that to get us to that 1,060. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. The 970 seating capacity, this includes the section seats right behind the stage, which is an obstructive view. But they're still part of the venue. And then the cost for graduation at UNT is between $58,000 to $67,000. And the reason for the variance is because the potential of added cameras or other graphics that are needed to pull off such a wonderful performance in a production that Ms. Brim and her group does every year. So LISD graduation capacity estimates for 2023 coming up. You can see we have it broken down by the schools. We have the graduates. We have an added number there of LLC, Learning Center, and night school graduates. We have adult supervision that is required at each of the campuses for that. Then that gives us the grand total. And remember, the capacity on the floor per the fire marshal was 1060. The LLC and night school, we used the same numbers that we had last year, but talking with Principal Deaton, she's anticipating those numbers to be even more this year, just because of providing more opportunities for students that maybe have not had that in the past. And so kind of give you that estimate of what we're looking at on the floor for 2023. Here's the pure numbers per the demographic report of just the graduation classes. You can see what it's the estimated number there for 2023. You can see what we've had in the past. The LHS has a little bit of a dip this coming year. But once again, as we know, the demographic reports sometimes are just a good guess, and then they show up and they're there, and then we have to teach them and put them into classes and have staff members to take care of them. So you can see the pure graduating class per the demographic report. Here are the past 2-year numbers of LLC and night school. We don't really have a good number to put there for this coming year, but we're anticipating those numbers to be at or above these numbers. Estimated potential graduates total for 2023, campus graduates plus night school plus LLC. You can see those numbers there. Ms. Brim's slide that I will do for her. So communication, graphics, and streaming. LISD has been known to put on a great production from before we went to the Texas Motor Speedway, during the Texas Motor Speedway days, to the Star Days, and then at UNT. The quality of video production, the quality of streaming has always been tremendous from LISD. But these 4 things needed to be talked about with our past year experience. The video, LISD had to contract out additional cameras to add split screen and multiple views this year. UNT did not provide that. No dedicated time for audiovisual checks, which in the past we have had, but this past year we did not. So a lot of the behind-the-scene things were happening while guests were coming in. The audio part of our production, LISD had to upload and load our own music into the system. We usually have some support there. But once again, Ms. Brim's group is very skilled at it, but it's always nice to have a little help, especially when it's not your system. UNT did not provide microphones for the live stream or the recording of the band and the choir. UNT audio engineer was not present to help with the system to conduct the checks. Once again, Ms. Brim's team is very skilled, but it's always nice to have whoever has the keys to the car to help you drive it at times. Graphics, UNT only provided basic presentation graphic opportunities, no ability to have live or overlaid graphics about, with speaker names or school names, things like that. And then the streaming and the recording, which has become almost a standard now that you have to have at graduations. Hebron's live stream stopped early due to an encoder issue. The Colony and LHS recordings were started late, which meant several speakers might have been missed. And the LISD communication staff were not fully supported to provide a quality presentation. You might not know it because they do such a good job, but it probably could have been smoother and a little bit better. Did I sum that up, Ms. Brim? Okay, good. I'm going to turn over the next slide of safety and security to Matt Garrett.
Very briefly, we're going to cover safety and security. As you know, UNT PD, along with some supplemental Denham PD, typically work the safety and security of the Coliseum during the graduation weekend. We do have Coliseum staff that are not in the role of security, but posted at several points within egress routes posted to make sure folks aren't coming in. And then our high school campuses bring their school resource officers as well to provide a resource to the administration by the stage. But of course, we really do look to UNT PD to be the lead law enforcement agency in an incident. Just a real quick briefing on the screening side. At UNT, there is no screening of spectators. And then the graduates, of course, the campus administrators, along with support from SROs in the tunnel, are searching and wanting graduates. Bag policy, UNT Coliseum did implement a clear bag policy and implemented this year at the entrances, and then graduates, no bags are allowed. Safety and security is a point of discussion. Through some of the initial discussions we had, it's interesting to think about Lewisville High School is probably one of, if not the largest event at UNT Coliseum. Some of the items which we could talk about later tonight would probably be a discussion point of it's time for them to increase a little bit more for our events because it's some of the largest things they have, and we've already had some initial discussions about enhancements on that side. So
the next few slides are a great overview picture of each service. You have Hebron with the 866 graduates, almost at capacity. Choir performed at the back of the floor, no band, it was audio track was used. Flower Mound at 941 graduates, almost at capacity again. Choir performed at the back of the floor, no band, audio track was used. Notice the area behind the stage. You can see those available seats, but that's a very obstructed view. Marcus at 771 graduates, almost at capacity. Choir performed at the back, and then the band performed at the back to the left of the floor. You can see there's more space there available. Lewisville High School, you can see the 1155 graduates. Crowd started to spill into the area behind the stage. Graduates were taking up one section in the stands. Choir performed at the back of the floor and then exited, but there was no band and no track used. And then the Colony, the crowd, obviously a smaller graduating class, they did allow us to remove the chairs to make it more aesthetically pleasing for the viewing, which was great. That was a great thing that they allowed us to do. Dr. Baxter provided the workers to help get that done. Mr. Plunkett?
Okay, these are the tentative graduation dates for 2023. A lot of people don't realize the schools rotate. The principals are on a rotation basis. Everybody moves up one, and then the one that was last moves up. So these are the tentative dates at UNT for next year. We haven't published these yet just because of waiting on the board meeting. But these are what it would be with the extra time in between for traffic. And this is probably a bigger slide. This is we contacted schools around us to find out who was using tickets and who weren't. Plano has all three of theirs in one day. They give 8 tickets per student, and they have theirs at the Star. Frisco, same thing, 15 tickets per student at the Star. And then if you'll notice, everybody else that has a stadium, or the Coppell, Carroll, and Allen have theirs outside of the stadium. They're all one school districts, so if there is a bad storm, they said they have the flexibility to move it for rain or whatever, knowing that that's the only event scheduled in the stadium that weekend. Northwest is back at UNT. They do not use tickets, and Keller has moved to Dickey's Arena.
Our takeaways from doing this review, which was, it was very exciting because usually you just talk about graduation the closer you get to it. So this gave us a summer focus talking about graduation. But the guiding principle is going to land on safety and security. And what we're talking about, due to safety and security considerations, we believe we need to hold deeper conversations with UNT. We actually, the three of us, sat on a conference call with UNT this past week initially to kind of get our questions out there. They really didn't provide us with hard answers. They said that's coming, but we did start that discussion, and we will continue to ask them the questions in order for us to be satisfied. Based on the current graduation numbers and current guidelines from UNT, tickets will only be required for LHS. That is if they keep true to their 950 or the 1060 floor capacity and their requirements of a graduating class of 950. They have the right to adjust those either in the positive or the negative. So we need to be aware, and we're going to continue to have those conversations with them. The sooner we know what their ideas are, the better. Consider options for night school and LLC graduation for students that belong to LHS. That's a big number of students there that adds to the floor capacity. Definitely something to be considered. Anything and everything needs to be considered and talked about, we believe. The next steps. In the previous years, this venue discussion has come up in September so that things can be finalized, venues can be finalized, parents can be informed, and of course guests. And so I appreciate the opportunity to bring it forward a couple of 1 month early so we can have a good discussion. Once again, we're going to continue our discussion with UNT around safety and security procedures, spectator capacity, and then once we get our answers to our questions from UNT, we're going to report those findings back to you. That is it. Any questions?
Thank you for that report. Okay, so true confessions here. I am one with a senior next year, so I almost feel like I should recuse myself. But anyway, it's good to hear. We observe stuff that went on. I know we observed some interesting safety and security stuff that happened at graduation. So a couple questions on that. So is the safety? You said you're asking questions of them about safety and security. Is that already? I mean, how much control do we have over that? Do we say, okay, we want to put more, police at the entrances or whatever? Will they do it?
Through the discussions we've had initially, I think if there's a desire from us to add, they have the capacity to add, but I'm sure that the costs would be forwarded to us in the extent of what we're requesting. Above the comment, what they have, and it scales up based on the size of the event, but I do believe the cost would probably be passed along.
Okay. Okay, so have we signed on the dotted line with UNT yet? Okay. So I kind of feel like what we maybe, the undercurrent here may be like, hey, wouldn't it be nice if we went back to the Star or some other venue? I mean, are you as staff, kind of ready to say that or not? Dr. Rapp?
I think at this time what we did is we sat and debriefed what we saw and what we experienced, and in reviewing and debriefing felt like it was best to bring some of that information to all of you. And some of that was generated as we processed what we saw happen in Uvalde. Really, we should be debriefing large events like this regularly. Mm-hmm. So at this time, I wouldn't say we're ready to bring forward a recommendation, more than anything just to tell you here's what we observed, here's what we're talking through right now, and forming our thoughts about what does this mean for the future.
So one interesting thing about COVID, I know Dr. Bonner, you were at the one at Texas Motor Speedway for sure. I don't remember if you weren't at the Star though, I don't think. Were you? Okay. Sorry. Losing time here. Well, the interesting thing is, with the exception of Ms. Taylor, we have all experienced 3 different venues, including you guys, So it's interesting to compare, and see, which is better. I wouldn't vote for Texas Motor Speedway because it's hot, but, so read into that what you would. But anyway, so I'll be interested to hear what else you have for us on this.
And I know you said tentative dates. Does our community understand that we have to approve this before those dates are set in stone? Okay. I wanted to make sure of that. I would also question UNT staff's ability to enforce that clear bag policy as I sat there on the stage and watched bag after bag, that if it was clear, boy, it looked black to me. But so I would question their definition of a clear bag. But that, and I would venture to say that probably Ms. Brim's department wasn't the only thing that wasn't supported. It gave me pause several times as I was freezing, and as you all remember, and I would go and walk outside. It seemed like even our door was an open door. People were coming in and out, and nobody had a badge on, and I didn't know who they were. And I would really like for even our staff, when they're not in their robes, to be wearing their badges. And as much as I would love to know every employee in LISD, I don't. And it did give me pause, especially after a couple of those events. I was like, well, who is this person? And so I would like to know, does the STAR ever have a policy where they require tickets? And is Plano and Frisco's a requirement of the district, or is that a requirement of the STAR? So I would like to know those things.
That's a great question, and Mr. Plunkett worked directly with the STAR last year. But in general terms, tickets drive the cost, and so if we have X amount of tickets issued out, that means they know how many spectators are going to be able to come. They know how many event staff they need to provide, how many parking attendants, how many police officers. So the tickets issued by the STAR really is the driving force on the cost.
So remind me, did we have tickets when we were there before? We did? Okay, I didn't have a senior that year, so.
Y'all had passes?
No, I didn't.
Y'all had passes?
We had passes, but did spectators have tickets?
Yes.
Okay. That I couldn't remember.
Originally, we started with a lower number, but then as things progressed, I think the decision by the administration at that time, plus y'all's blessing, I think we upped the amount of tickets provided.
Okay.
I think it landed somewhere around 12 tickets per graduate, maybe a little more.
Okay. So those were really the things that really concerned me. And I'm glad that, Matt, that I have written here, deeper conversations usually mean more dollars. So just glad you clarified that.
And we did learn a lot from the story.
I think just to add on to not just that, but the comment you made, we have over the last 3 years, because of COVID, experienced 3 different venues and 3 different operations and what that looks like, and emergency management and operation logistics. So it has kind of opened up some conversation around how do people do that.
I greatly appreciate the safety security part of the conversation, that's for sure. But remind me, how much was STAR compared? Wasn't it double the cost of UNT or more than double the cost? 4 times the cost of UNT.
Yeah, but if I may, Ms. Hassett, Mr. Plunkett, there was a variable there that the STAR was unwilling to commit to us on a longer-term contract, I believe, and some other fees that they weren't, and it might have been safety and security. There were 2 variables that the STAR was wide open on for us that we wouldn't know until we got closer to the event.
But historically speaking, it's considerably double or more than UNT has ever been. And evidently there's definitely some reasons if you found out the people on the floor, but I think cost is definitely something that we always need to consider. Safety first, though.
And I think, what we'll take the time to be able to gather, what would the additional costs be for additional measures possibly as they're needed at UNT, because that would need to be part of the conversation. That would change the cost there.
I want to thank, Ms. Lasan for her comments about, experiencing different venues. I will say that I only experienced one as a new board member, but I have to, I guess, go on record with my disappointment regarding the way that the Lewisville High School graduation looked to me, because all of the students, that was the only school where all of the students were not together on the floor, and just watching it and putting myself in their situation, wondering if some of them felt like second-class citizens. I also had a number, and I had just been elected, of parents reach out to me regarding that issue, that they were not together. Now, that being said, Ms. Haslett, gave me some, again, my financially conservative brain, some more information that if we're paying $50,000, we'll say, for graduation at UNT, I guess it's, $200,000 or whatever the number is at the Star. I guess I don't know what the answer is to that, but as a child matriculating through the LHS feeder pattern, it's concerning to me that on what may be the only graduation in some kids' lives, that they're not all together, and that it might feel like it's different for them, and especially different if we're looking at what looks like equity or whatever it is throughout the district, that they're the only school. And I realize they're a bigger school, but that we should give some consideration to that. And I don't know what the answer is, but I'm just telling you as someone who witnessed it, how it looked to me and how it felt to me. So.
Thank you for the work and the debrief. Did you all do a debrief after Motor Speedway? Maybe not to this extent, but the Motor Speedway or the Star?
Not to this level. Thinking through it, I think this is the first time we've ever done a deep dive into it and then looking at projected numbers. But once again, to what Dr. Rapp says, now we have something to compare it to, so that it drove our thinking around safety and security, venue, spectator experience. So we really haven't done that. We did for event issues through Matt Garrett's office, but not the deep dive and then the projected numbers looking forward.
Okay, so I love your analogy that it's like the Super Bowl, and I think that every kid deserves the same kind of Super Bowl. I will say that. Are we looking at possibility, to Ms. Lasson's question, are there any other venues that could meet our needs in the area?
I think that's probably, could end up being one of the questions at hand, right? And then the question would become with Ms. Maloney and Mr. Martin about how to go about looking at what our options are. I think we'll know more about whether to recommend a review of what all of our options are facility-wise after we have more conversations with UNT about these concerns as well and where we land on those. But we may be looking at other venues around, because there are other options, as not just the Dickies Arena, but some people use Globe Life Field, and and there are stadiums. So we have options, and we have ways to analyze what those options are.
I would just say that I think that if we're going to standardize the graduation, have the band there. One of the graduations did have the band there, and it was great. I'll just say, it was great. I think that I often say the students are our product, and I think they need to be celebrated in the very best way. And it shouldn't matter if you come from a school that only has a class of 600 or if you come from a school with a class of over 1,000. It should be the same kind of experience because every student deserves to be celebrated in the same way.
Just two real quick questions. The list of items that were in the deficit column, I'm sure that's what you guys have provided back to UNT for feedback, and they're working on right now to come back to us. Is that correct? Yeah, okay. Perfect. And to Ms. Taylor's point, how is it decided, because LHS has always been large, right? And so how has it been decided over the last several years the who? You know, who gets to sit in the bleachers? Is that alpha oriented?
So early in the fall, there's an RSVP opportunity for all students, and that is open for a very long window. If you're looking to graduate and walk the stage at LHS, please sign up here. And so that number is then gathered, and those that do not RSVP, after numerous announcements, information sent out, then they have this number that will sit on the floor, and those that, if they decide then to show up late or don't tell us at all, then there's that spot up in the stands.
Okay. Yeah, ideally they'd all be on the floor, right? But I was just curious how that decision was made. So thank you for that.
It's not alphabetical.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for all the work on this, and appreciate you bringing this forward and doing. I think this is a good set the tone every year. We're going to go through a journey here, and it's probably going to have some tension associated with it. Now, this is not an equity issue. The board's never received complaints about LHS. Jeff, you were the principal there. Most of us who have kids that graduated from LISD, they're not thinking about their graduation anymore. And so, you know, UNT has been a decent venue, and we've set kids in the bleachers. That said, safety and security trumps everything, right? And so there's no way everybody's going to have the same graduation. I mean, the colony's getting down to where you're talking 577 against 1060 or 1,000, and the graduation venue is going to feel different. It's going to feel different for Marcus at 800 versus Hebron at 950. So I think that we have to be prudent here, right, and really look at what's the concerns being expressed through the campus leadership. If campuses, parents have concerns, I'd like to hear from those parents through their campus leaders. So what are we getting from the 5 campus leaders that they heard from their parents as to the concerns with the graduation? That's an input that I think we've got to consider here, if we have parents concerned where kids are sitting, that type of thing. The other thing is, remember, we're talking about, if we use the Star, which is a great venue, a lot of money, and money does matter. It doesn't mean that safety doesn't trump money, but you're also going to impose at least a $5 charge on most everybody that's going to drive to the Star to and from, because they're going to have to take the tollway. There's no other option for most of the people other than those who are at Hebron and those who are at the Colony. So with that said, I think you're going to look at, it sounds like you're going to look at this from a very multidimensional perspective, bring back some options. I think the options are broader than the list that we've talked about tonight, the 3, as Dr. Rapp just mentioned, and I'd be curious to see what inputs you're hearing from the campuses, right, and parents. That's the fundamental communication venue where we hear the real facts about. I'll give you an example. We heard from 5 parents after we used the Star about how we should use it again. 5. How many kids did we graduate? Almost 4,000. Think about that. About 5 emails versus 4,000. Is that a way to make decisions? Probably not. So I'd like to see some more input into this from objective parties and hear, you know, what you guys find as it relates to the other venues. So thank you. Okay. Dr. Rapp.
Thank you all so much. Okay, so Ms. Bay was unable to be with us tonight. She's under the weather, and if she's listening, and I think she might be, we hope you're feeling better. So I'm going to cover just real quickly some quick notes about TASB Board Policy Update 119. Of course, all of the changes, this is the last update that covers all of the changes made by the legislature in the last session. So the reason it's later than usual is because the legislative session went much later than usual. And of course, I know y'all have seen a detailed analysis of these changes, as we've provided even some information in my board notes to you all. But We're only discussing local policy changes. Legal changes, of course, have automatically taken effect. And if you have any substantive questions that I'm unable to address this evening, of course, we have another question opportunity as you get ready for the board meeting on Monday night. A couple of things I just want to make a note about is that in this update, you're going to see EHAA Local, which is the basic instructional program. Of course, we know Senate Bill 9 that passed in the second called session imposes several requirements for instruction on the prevention of child abuse, family violence, dating violence, and sex trafficking, including a board policy on adopting those curriculum materials. And so that's one of the policies that's included in this update on how we are to meet those requirements. You also have a policy update locally about required staff development and how we are to annually approve the district's professional development plan. And of course, we do that through the district improvement plan, and Dr. Miller leads that effort. And then you've got a records management one. Deanne also wanted to just highlight in your background documents, you've got special programs, a special ed piece, special programs, again with gifted and talented. You've got trauma-informed care, and then an FH local on freedom from discrimination, and of course that's our notice to parents upon our report of a receipt of dating violence. So those are just some highlights. You've got all that in board book. I'd be happy to take any questions or pass those along.
Catherine?
I don't have any
Okay,
questions.
Christy? Okay, we're good to go. All right. Next item, board operating procedures. I'll walk us through this. So, board, it's going to be important that you pull up the document, which I'm going to do here myself, and pull up track changes. So here's how we're going to work this.
Are you talking about the email that we got?
Yeah, you would have gotten an email. Okay. Okay, well, we'll table the discussion then. Okay, we'll table the discussion. Organizational memberships, do you want to take us through that, Dr. Rapp, or who's going to?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. Okay, so this item basically was a request to be brought forward about what organizational memberships are we paying for, and talking through just any questions related to those, any thoughts on the memberships that we have. And so you have that information for you there. You can see there's been some conversation about are there some memberships that we need to stop paying because maybe we don't need to continue to, or we're not benefiting possibly from being a member of that organization. Of course, I've been passing along information to you as I'm receiving it from organizations that we get information from, such as the Coalition for Education Funding and the North Texas Commission. But you can see there just a report essentially on what all are we paying memberships to. I'd be happy to take any comments, or you can follow up with me afterwards on any of your thoughts about these organizations and the memberships that we pay. And that's really what this is.
Under organizations, the last one, CRSS, that's just if we sign up. That's not a fee.
Yes.
I have another question. So here, for example, on the NTAASB, $150 a year, is that for all of us to be members? Yeah? Christy?
I believe it is, yeah.
Okay, okay, and then the North Central Texas Council of Governments, I'm aware of that organization through my city government experience, but I wasn't really aware they did much with schools. Do they? Do you know? Some? Okay. But it's only $100 a year if we even get billed, so, okay.
Dr. Rapp, would it be possible for some of these organizations, what we get for our, I mean, like, what we get for what we pay.
Yeah.
I think that would be beneficial, and probably put some understanding around some of the higher amounts.
Yeah, we can absolutely do.
Well, and Dr. Rapp, they're going to have a list, and I think it would benefit to have their list, but also, what is that organic benefit that we have out here if that information could be provided in some way? Because I will tell you, such as the Colony Chamber, was any of our incubator mentors or any of those people not Colony Chamber members? The majority.
I think they were all Colony Chamber members.
So that's not going to be listed in the
No,
chamber.
I think that's a benefit, but I guess my point is, so for, and I'm not going to use any, for $100, you get this, and this for their levels. That's all I'm kind of asking, because I think it would really help you understand what a great deal we're getting with some of these organizations with the benefits that we get.
Right. I would just like to go beyond that and have that.
But that's the whole point of being a part of those organizations, though, right? That if we weren't part of the Colonies Chamber, for example, I don't think we would have found the number of business partners that we found to sponsor that incubator program, and to really have, a lot of them have just really taken it on as a personal mission of theirs.
I just don't want the list that they provide to be so tunneled that we don't see this out here, that maybe the community doesn't see that benefit, but we absolutely know it because we do see it, so.
We can put together that information as a follow-up. That's no problem.
Okay, we're going to do something here. We're going to do the next item, and I'm going to turn it over to Christy, and we're going to take a short recess. I think we can get the board book up in a few minutes, and so we're going to try and do that so that we can. Otherwise, we're looking at next month, really, to. Yeah, no, we need to see it. So we got our best and brightest are on it, Jamie and IT, but we'll take a recess after we talk about this item because it should be fairly quick. So Christy?
Should be fairly quick. TASB directors. So TASB, the board of directors of TASB is made up of trustees in the 20 regions around Texas. They are nominated by their board that they sit on. We, as a board, can endorse candidates as they run for a spot to serve on the board of directors for TASB. We have not done this in the past. TASB also has we've always let the other organic process. When enough boards don't endorse a person for the TASB director for their region, TASB themselves, their board of directors, interview the people that would like to be elected for this position. When they're interviewed, the board of directors of TASB recommends someone for that position, then the delegate assembly at TASB convention votes on those nominees or other people that they want to vote on for those positions. So we've always let the second part go. We've always let TASB interview people, recommend someone, and then we vote at delegate assembly. This time I'd like to go ahead and endorse a candidate that has been put on the list of position A for Region 11 TASB Director, Julie Cole from HEB ISD. I think she'd be an excellent board of director for TASB.
Any questions, Sheila? Dr. Bonner?
Christy, I'm sorry, just on process. Did I understand you to say it's been our typical practice not to endorse at this place? And so if that's the case, we let the organic process go to fruition. Okay, thank you.
So I know we've received 2 other letters. How many total are then running?
There are 3 people running in position A. There are also 2 people running in position D. I don't know enough about the two people in position D, so I'm not recommending an endorsement of either one of those two people from position D. So that would be the organic process, unless someone else here wants to make a position D recommendation, endorsement. I'm letting the organic process of TASB Board of Directors interview those two people, select one to be the person that they recommend that the delegate assembly vote on, although the delegate assembly still gets those two people. So I'm not recommending for anybody for D. I'm recommending someone for position A, one of the three people that currently have been nominated by their boards. If one person in Region 11 gets 50% of the districts in Region 11 to endorse someone, they automatically get on the board.
I think that's
30.
30,
Yeah, 30, 31, 30 something.
Christy, remind me, can somebody run from the floor
They
during
can.
convention?
They can.
And don't we not have sitting board members who ran from the floor?
I don't know if they're still sitting. We have in the past, and they were nominated and elected at the floor. I don't know for sure if they're still sitting.
I think he is.
I think he is, but I don't know for sure.
Okay, so here's our situation. We may not have done this in the past. I think this candidate, what's unique is we do have one of our trustees recommending this. However, this is unique, and Sheila, you may not remember, you actually met this person. She sat at lunch with us one day, right? At SLI. And, but you've met her before, I think, Jenny, maybe last year at SLI, right? Okay, and Buddy, you would not have probably met her unless you met her last year. Well, so that is a little bit unique as well. With the other two, I couldn't even tell you what they look like, but I think this is really up for consent. It's going to be on consent next week. So if you have some questions or concerns, we can talk about it now. We can consult with our attorney, or we can let it slide till next week, and then we can make a decision then. Good. All right. We're going to take a brief recess, let IT do some updates here, and I appreciate your patience. We're going to reconvene into, open session at 8:46 to continue the discussion on the BOP. All right. I got everybody?
Oh, I can tell you where they are.
This is between us and executive session, which is between us and going home. So, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with Jenny. Jenny can comment on her own or other comments, right? And so we're going to go around one time, right? So Jenny has some recommendations. We'll say, okay, and we'll just, and I've talked to Haley about this. Are we thumbs up or not? See where we're at, and we're just going to kind of click through these, right? So we'll start with Jenny, go to Buddy, and we'll see how it goes here. See if we can do it efficiently. And if there's a point at which we don't think we can resolve it, we're just going to defer it to legal counsel. And some of these items are legal counsel input, as we've seen, so we'll take it from there. Go ahead, Jenny.
So mine, the document we have, which I greatly appreciate the upload, it does not have the notations from Haley on it. So I did luckily print off what I had sent in. I think my only large changes were on pages 11, that I asked that any grievances be brought in a timely manner, both to the superintendent and to the board, and that no concerns should be anonymous when bringing a concern about another board member. A lot of it was about complying with the new superintendent instruction and timelines. I did ask on page 37, remove the fourth bullet, that any member who seeks to be elected an officer make their intentions known to the board at closed executive session at the April board meeting. And I did put that I needed proper wording from general counsel. I just wanted that deleted. And And now on page 41, protocol for the review and amendment of district policies. And the only other thing that I did note in there is I think we need to delineate between general counsel and board counsel throughout the document, and that was just a note on that. I'm trying to think of anything else. On page 7, I did ask that we remove CRS from recommendations. I think another trustee had as well. I had also asked that we add safety and security training, which another trustee had as well, to best of my recollection. I did ask Haley, I think she addressed it, how to address the sharing of learning compliance, how we should do that because of recommendations from council. I think, without seeing the things, those were mine. I'll speak to mine.
What were your comments on the officer election, 37, page 37?
Page 37, mine was, I just wanted to remove bullet 4. I wanted to remove bullet 4.
You wanted to remove any board member who seeks to be elected will make their intentions.
I think that
I have to agree with that. I kind of think a lot can happen between April and May.
I agree.
Does anybody disagree with that? Well, since we're on that, does anybody disagree with that?
Should we, the only thing I would think is, should we have where you have to make the intention in May? I mean,
No.
what is your thought?
I just think a lot can happen between April and May,
But that's
I think that.
So are you saying not
just to remove it, just to go back to the way we used to do it, in the sense that if you want to seek an officer's position, you make your intention known that night in May, and whenever we.
But that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Do we not need wording that needs to be in May?
Change the wording to match law that you.
Well, I just think it needs to
session.
be
Yeah.
in closed session. We need that.
That's a Haley question. That's not a Jenny question.
Right. So
I'm not answering that question.
Someone who's going to track this, you going to track it, or
Board secretary should track it.
yeah? So
Page 37.
Page 37.
Remove the fourth. My recommendation was to remove the fourth bullet.
Okay.
Can I ask a relative novice question on that?
Sure.
Are we wordsmithing here, or are we sending in maybe ideas on how to wordsmith this later? Because there may be some value to something along these lines. Any board member that seeks to be elected will make their intentions known to the board in closed session as early as the April board meeting, but up to and including the month of the election to be held, or something along those lines. In other words, put some parameters around it.
And I think
my issue was that it precluded people who may have wanted to serve in an officer's position if they in April didn't state that they wanted to, that it then precluded them.
That's
what I really want to get rid of.
That's why I'm saying put a window in there.
I think the wordsmith, along with that other in closed session, needs. Let's have ideas here, hash it with Haley, and bring it back.
Yes, Haley's going to look at every one of our wordsmithing. So let's limit.
Again, not my job.
We can wordsmith, but limit it. One of the things, Jenny, that I do want to raise on I think you raised this, and I want to comment on it. It was general counsel versus board president running the hearings. So what happened there is really I didn't recall that it was in the BOP, but what happened is we never used to have the general counsel run the meetings. The board president at the time was uncomfortable running the meetings, and so she had asked Jeff Crownover to run the meetings before you.
Before me.
And so that's why we went to that.
Right.
In talking to Gary and Haley about protocols back then when we were in the interim, and their recommendation was not to do that, to give the board president the discretion of that. But the other issue was that we were dealing with the kind of overbearing nature of we have an attorney running things for us and an employee may not, or parents may not, et cetera, and to get away from that kind of sense that everything's being run by our attorney. Right? So that's why we shifted away from that.
It was in the BOP.
Was in the BOP.
and it is how the BOP says that we run our hearings. So if we want to change that, then I guess I liked, personally, having sat in both types, I liked our attorney running those grievances. I think it gave good direction, and I think it put in good guardrails. And I think it also, I've never been president, but I think it also gave the president an opportunity to participate more in the hearing instead of having to make sure the time with times, because I know how stressful it is because I usually sit next to Catherine in them for the timing. I mean, we usually have 3 timers going. So that was, if we're going to change it in the BOP, I'd like to see what that wording looks like.
Let's do this. This is one where I think our legal counsel has an opinion, so we'll talk to her here in a little bit on that one. So we'll table that.
Yeah.
We'll put that one on hold.
Can I just ask, Ms. Prosnick, since she included CRSS in the beginning at page 11, it's also in page 43, and I did send that to Haley, but not in time because of the events of my mom. So,
I'm all good with removing CRS.
Yes, it is in page 43 in the review calendar for major events and dates and training opportunities. So I don't want it left one place and taken out of a different place. So.
Yeah, I think it was a pile on CRS. Looking at the comments, so I mean, I enjoyed CRS, but at any rate, okay, Jenny, you good for now?
Those are all mine.
Okay.
So yeah,
buddy.
The only one I had a question about, maybe, or just some comment on, was under endorsements on page 10, and Jenny's suggestion, was there a way to apply the endorsement prohibition on all candidates? I like where you're headed, even as someone that employed that strategy during their electoral campaign. I don't think we can enforce that with someone that's not a board member, but I do think, to your point, we could make it more clear in the language that a sitting board member is prohibited from seeking endorsement during work hours or on district property, which would include email. So I do think we could do that reasonably, but I don't think we have the authority to exclude.
We can.
Candidate.
We can put it in our ethics for campaigning that we have that everybody signs when they're a candidate. I will say that, it's my personal opinion, I think if you email staff as a candidate, I think it puts staff in such a horrible position. And I think that I don't like it at all. And I know you employed it, but I think that it is, I just don't think it's ethical.
Well, we employed it not as a, I think what's at issue here is the
I personally don't like it for everybody.
Right, but that we can't change the election laws. But what we're talking about here is simply.
We can put the parameters in when you sign your when you sign your ethics, when you sign up. We can make that one of our ethics for this district. So we can.
Can we verify with legal?
I don't.
Yeah.
I asked someone legal.
And I would like to know what is the process if any of those ethics are violated. I mean, is it just a moot point? Somebody's going to sign it, still do it? I mean, what's the point of that?
A couple thoughts. One, we're talking about the BOP, not the ethical considerations. But two, I don't think it's an ethical violation or a consideration, and I won't discuss that any further because it's not appropriate at this juncture. And if it comes up, I'll address it then. But I do think this could be made stronger for board members. So that's my only thought.
Yeah, here's what
page 10.
Page 10. So what's behind this is, I think, is as an incumbent, non-incumbents can do an open records request, get access to emails, but as incumbents, as trustees, we are different types of candidates. We still hold the position, and I think what you're getting to is that we've got to be careful. And I think that those of you that are incumbents that ran were very careful, even in access to campuses and events that we attend. We've seen other elections, right, where people have misused or abused their incumbency to access, put stuff on social media. Look where I'm at, and maybe they got a pin on for something else, and I think that's what you're trying to. We want to maintain a much higher level standard there. So as it relates to the ethics piece, we will consult with the attorney on that. Maybe separately, you and Lori and I can get
And if
with
you'll notice,
Haley.
I put that in there, that's a separate issue.
Well, if what you just laid out is the case, this whole thing needs to be augmented to include those instances, because as currently written, and even with the item that Jenny suggests for board members, it wouldn't cover that.
Why don't we take this section, and we're going to give it to our legal counsel. We probably won't even solve that tonight, but we'll let her work on that as well. Did you have anything else, buddy? Okay, thank you. Allison?
Dr. Meyer, you did have one on page 22. Individual board members shall notify the board president prior to contacting board counsel. Written communications from a board member to board counsel shall be copied to the board president.
Yeah, I did have that one.
Did you want to talk about it?
What I'm aiming at there is to make sure that any communication with our legal counsel, not administration legal counsel outside the district, reflects the body corporate as much as reasonably through and with board president. That's what I'm aiming at there.
But if your issue, if your issue was perhaps with the board president, is that fair to do outside?
I would say in that instance, and I hadn't anticipated that, I would say in that instance then copy vice president. And there's language, and I don't know where it is in the BOP about that.
Well, no, that's if you
hierarchy.
have, that's for a grievance.
Yeah.
I guess I certainly have reached out to Haley on just a couple of occasions. I don't know if I want to feel like I need to, check that I need to do that.
Okay.
That's just me.
I just think it's important to have, if we're going to engage the services of that individual, that the communication is more than just a one-off. So that's why I
Allison, where are you
include
at on
that.
Dr. Bonner's item?
I need to think about that one a little bit more, because I see kind of both ways a little bit. However, I do think that, like to your point, if you had a problem with the president, you could go to the vice president. You could go loop someone else in. And the fact, an officer, maybe it's the officer of your choosing. There's 3 people. I'm sorry, I'm kind of working this out in my head as I'm talking, but because of the fact that we do pay for her, whoever it is. Right now, it's her services. I don't know.
Here's where this issue has to be considered. One is, when we had an outside counsel before, remember we had an interim, Catherine was president. I know when I wanted to speak to her, I went to Catherine, and we would hold a call with her. Now, we're not talking about issues with officers, we're talking about questions for the general counsel. And but I was also very well known for calling TASB attorneys before I would even call our general counsel, or I would, in the conversation with general counsel, say, well, I've spoken to the attorney, right? So there are means for us to get legal advice for free. And, it's pretty decent legal advice. Now, what we all know is lawyers tend to vary on certain things, like blind copies on emails or whatever, right? They have different opinions. So on this one, what's at issue probably mostly is if there's an issue with the president. And so I think let's defer to legal, if we can, the legal counsel on this, because the process itself, it has to be addressed before it even goes to legal counsel about the president. So that's, again, kind of BOP adherence. But let's get her input on that one. Go ahead, Christy.
Although if this is really for transparency and making sure that we're not calling board council all the time. I think it would be a good thing for the president to say, I've called board council, I've contacted board council on these generic, if it's an issue that we'll discuss, we can't create a walking forum, but I've called them on this date about this topic, it will be on a board agenda item later, or I think it would be a good thing for you to report that, the same thing as well.
Yeah, and there are times where she calls me, and there are times where Lori will call her, or she'll call Lori, so there's different things. I think Lori's would not fall into this, that they should have their own process that's protected. So that's great. So that's a great point, Christy.
But I think especially, too, because there is a portion that we have retainer. So until we meet that, and unlike everything else that I approve, I don't know what that's used for. Do you know what I mean? So it would be helpful if there was a way to, especially if have we ever gone above that retainer? I don't recall.
I think our retainer actually is with Walsh Gallegos and
Right.
multidimensional, if I'm
Okay.
not mistaken, Lori. So we can have her address that. I think she sent us the latest agreement at one point in the last month, and it had the retainer in there and what the reduced fees are because of the retainer. So the retainer doesn't cover a lot. It does give us some reduced fees.
And where I'm getting at that is if you as a president within those times that she allots to our retainer is 80%, I understand that. If we have another board member who is 80% of that, then I want to know why. So, I would hope my other, the other board members would agree with me that ultimately that's money I'm responsible for in some way or form or fashion. So that's just what
I think it's uncomfortable because I am the president, but here's what I would say. Remember, our protocol requires questions generally to the superintendent. You copy the board president, right? So this fundamental issue here, which is a fair one, is if there's a concern that a trustee is uncomfortable talking to the president and general counsel with. That's the fundamental concern. The vice president is an option or another officer. That's in language I could agree to. I think beyond me, I'm just thinking, hey, how do we manage this? We manage interface with the superintendent sends an email to the board president, blind copies the board, right? These are normal protocols that we're just implementing with our general counsel. So let's hold on that one. That was your second one. Okay. So Allison, did you have any?
The only one that the other ones that I had were kind of minor. Some of them were the same that Ms. Prosnick had. NSBA, remove any, mention of them. The only other one that I kind of wanted to discuss really, and I think this is something I think that I just want everyone to kind of take in and think about and see what and let's discuss it more at another day. But one is about board meeting attendance. And really, honestly, I was a little surprised that there wasn't anything in the BOP at all about attendance at board meetings. I think that's, and now I also asked for legal counsel's recommendation. Like, surely other boards do this. I mean, and I'm not sure why we don't. But, they put in this sentence here, board members shall make attendance at board meetings a priority, and each member shall strive to ensure that, she is in attendance for, and again, I put a blank because I don't even know, blank % of meetings held each school year. Then the other part is board members shall notify the board president and the superintendent of his or her absence from a meeting at least 24 hours in advance if possible. My thing is, okay, if you're all of a sudden you're ill, an hour before the meeting, you can't help that. But it's just something I want us to think about. And honestly, I was watching the news, and I think it might have been the Uvalde board, wasn't the Board of Trustees, it was the City Council, where they ended up having to remove their newly elected guy because he wasn't showing up. So, I'm looking for nuclear, this, everyone who's elected to this board wants to be here, wants to serve, and it's not been a big problem, but it could be, what if someone all of a sudden doesn't show up for, a month and we don't hear from them or they don't respond, and, what recourse as board members do we have to that person?
And I think that's another legal question, because as
Yes.
an elected board member,
100%.
I don't, yeah, that's
But
another.
but the city
But
council
there-
removed that guy, I believe, because.
Well, they resigned. So I did talk,
He-
so
okay,
here's what I would,
whatever.
here's what
You know
I would.
what I'm saying.
So this is an example where I have talked to the general counsel about preparation for tonight's meeting and how to facilitate this, right? So on this one, I think that she did provide some language, right? And didn't have percentages in there. The intent is to, because remember, the BOP goes to people running for office, right? And so they look at that BOP and they see that there's kind of an expectation of how to operate as a trustee, et cetera. So this is, while the percentages are absent, the intent was, I think, Allison, to say, hey, this has got to be a priority, right? And so if we want, we can defer this to legal counsel unless anybody else wants to comment on it.
Yeah, I absolutely think we should.
I'd like to comment. At first, I was thinking, we don't need this in here, because I expect 100% attendance. I have not. I think I've missed one, maybe two, in my 8-9 years. Had a vacation one time. I might have been sick, so things happen. I expect all of our trustees sitting to be at every meeting. Things happen. That's not always possible. Sometimes we've even had some video conferencing because things have happened. So that's an attendance bylaw. So at first I wasn't really sure I wanted it. I do think in case there is an issue, there's a local district, neighboring district, that's having this current issue as we speak. So we could censure a board member if they're absent too long. If it's in the BOP, it gives us more authority to go ahead and censure that, because it would be spelled out in the BOP. So because of that, I changed my mind after that I thought about it. And I would think 100%, I would like 100% personally.
Hey, remember, you got a new job, so, we do have weekday meetings, so.
I still want 100%.
So we would have to agree on a percentage. Here's the other thing. There is no ability for us to remove one of us, right? So, I think it's a district level judge or, a judge has to do it. So that said, let's table that one. Allison, did you have anything else?
Nothing else to discuss tonight.
Okay. Kat, or you want me to skip you, Kat, since you're taking notes? Go to Christy? Okay.
My only ones were already included, and except that when I went to review, I then caught that CRSS today, and I did send it to Haley, but okay.
Christy?
I won't go over the redundant ones that we've already discussed so far. Page 25 for patrons addressing the board. We need to decide how to update this to current protocol. I don't want to have to amend it every time, so I'm trying to figure out, Dr. Rapp, do you have wording that you might suggest on do we like our current protocol? Are we going to keep our current protocol? And if so, we could amend it every year. I'm just wondering, do we like it? I like a current protocol, so.
Well, respectfully, this is not a Dr. Rapp item. Unless
She
you're just wanting to ask for it.
Can she assist us in providing some of the information, or Amanda? What?
Amongst everything else she's doing?
Absolutely. She's got nothing else to do. Right, Dr. Rapp?
I'm always happy to assist.
No, let's not make this like a big spreadsheet.
I'd like a spreadsheet on it. Okay, so that's one of the main things we need to go ahead and do. I did add language on page 31 about the new workshop protocol on information items that we actually haven't really been following today at the moment, myself included. So we need to move things along a little bit better. And I think I had one more thing that hadn't been addressed, and now I can't find it. NSBA. I guess that's all. Thank you.
Sheila? Okay. I had one item, which was simply on leadership TASB, which it looks like those of you who took stuff out left that in. I'm picking on the NSBA and the CRSS. I liked CRSS. But at any rate, I'm just, my language was, and Haley did modify a little bit, that in the application, it says get superintendent and board president sign off. It's not approval. But what I'm trying to look at is in the event that there are two people that qualify and apply, that in that case, so any applicant has to go through the process of notifying. For example, this year, Allison signed up to do it. She notified Dr. Rapp and I. But if two people applied, LISD is only going to get one position. We have to decide then together who's going to go. Like, are we going to say, is it based on seniority, right? So if a second-year board member and a fourth-year board member are both applying, the board just needs to decide at that time who's going to get the slot, because they're only going to give us one. And so we don't have to worry about like who gets it in the quickest.
So you won't let the committee decide? Because the LTASB has a committee that decides on who they let in. So you're taking that away from them?
LTASB's basically, LISD's always going to get a position, generally, the way it works. So it's taking away simply that if we had two people that wanted to apply, that the board would then decide. It's not the board president and the superintendent, et cetera. It's the board would actually be the ones that ultimately say, okay, we're going to, so-and-so can go.
Well, and my impression was if you get two, if you send two, they're not going to look, and they have 50 and they have 30 slots. They're going to look at other districts and put them in slots if you have two. That was the impression that I got from LTASB.
No, that has not been my discussions that when I was in it for the last two, when people applied and so forth. No, it is their practice not to have more than two people from any district. It's not just LISD, from any district, to have more than two people in a class together.
More than one, actually.
Right. So you can't. I'm sorry. You're right. More than one, or just two. The person would need to decide to do LTASB if it's going to be a board decision. They would need to decide to do it before the June meeting, because usually what happens is, as was my case, I got recruited at SLI. And that was well after any board meetings that, does that make sense? That was well after any board meetings, and we certainly weren't meeting again.
When is the cutoff date? Does anyone remember?
It's July 1st, I think. So that's the only, the board can decide. I guess I have a little more faith in the leadership TASB people deciding who they let into the class or whatever, because they know the makeup of the class. I'll give you an example. You could send more experience and less experience, and they could look at the makeup of their class and go, and we could have chosen the less experienced trustee, and they can look and go, we have enough experienced trustees, because that's how they do it sometimes. I'm just saying.
In that instance, I'm going to move that the delegation opportunity I have at the next meeting be forwarded with Ms. Taylor, and we'll let TASB decide who's going to serve as a delegate.
Well, Ms. Taylor, you don't know what he's saying. There you go.
That's what I did last year.
That's what he did last year. So.
But to Jenny's point, I don't see it as giving anything up as much as exercising board authority or board opportunity. I think it actually helps TASB not to have to pick between two or three, right? So
the likelihood of this happening, given what I know about this board, is limited. So at any rate, that's where I'm at on that one. That was my only add. So, Catherine, did you have anything else you wanted to add? All right. So let's do this. We have the items for us to talk about.
Do you have the items for Haley?
Yeah, and if we want to talk to the general counsel tonight, or if we want to talk to our attorney tonight about this, we can. We can also, take some more time and, Yeah.
I think council's going to need time to research. I think we need to contact her, let her formulate some answers. I don't think it's any help to really contact her today because she's going to still have to do some additional research.
She's going to be with us anyway in a little bit. So, but we can okay. So we can say that we're going to get this stuff to her, let her come back with some recommendations, and let's do that. So with that said, is Mrs. Smith still here? Sheila, I am so sorry. I'm looking at this going, this is the last thing between us and executive session, and here we are dragging it out. So come on over. Let's close this thing out.
So Dr. Rapp asked me to speak just a little bit on this action item, and to do so, and I know we're ready to close up, but I really need to give you just a few data pieces to put some perspective on why this is being requested. So if you go back to 2019-20, we had 348 teacher resignations that year. Last year, we had 436 teacher resignations. This year, we have 650. In 2019-20, we had a total, all personnel, of 974 resignations. This year, we have 1,533, and honestly, still counting. And I say that to say to you, we're not unlike any district facing this staffing shortage. It is it's a very real thing. And geez, I hope I don't get emotional about this, but we are doing everything we know to do to approach the challenges that we're facing. We review enrollment numbers almost daily and move teachers. We are working on pathways to certifications and that we're hiring to address this area. We are putting permanent subs. Thank heaven we have our permanent subs, and we're putting permanent subs in positions that we haven't been able to find a teacher yet while we're getting ready to start the year. We've moved to hiring 8 to 10 retired teachers that are coming back. Teachers of Tomorrow, which you all approved for us, and I greatly appreciate. And with that allowed us 20 positions, but so far they've only found us 3 candidates. And thank heaven we found those 3. But I say all that to you to say the staffing shortage is real, but we are making progress. And this year, as of today, we have cut to where classroom teachers across the district, we've gone from having over 170 open positions 2 weeks ago to, if all the rec to hires go through, we're down to 29 open positions. We have about 26 open sped positions still if all of the rec to hires go through. Some of them won't, but if they were to all go through, we have made progress, and I want you to hear me say that. We have made progress. We're still working, but we've got a long ways to go. This action item is in front of you because in order to post positions on Region 10 and Region 11's websites, we have to be a part of their system. And it is expensive to be a part of their system. I don't like it, but when we want to post our positions to have more people be able to apply and we want to have access to more candidates right now in a staffing shortage, this is another opportunity and another option, and we're looking every day at every way that we can fill one more teaching position. And that's why this action item is in front of you tonight. Do I think it's a good process long term? No. I don't think you should have to be in 3 different application systems. But right now, given our shortage, I'm asking you to approve this action item to hopefully help us get over this hump of our staffing shortage.
questions. I support the request, but no questions.
Thank you.
I do have a couple questions. This is really expensive.
It is.
And with just, if you said if everybody came through, it's over $1,000 for every open position.
Yes, ma'am.
That was one of the reasons we moved to Frontline, because we were in these, and then we moved to Frontline, and so now we're doing all three. So my question becomes, and this is not necessarily, I think this is a problem district-wide. This is not your problem. This is not your staff's problem. I want to make that very clear. This is just, this is a situational problem that I think all districts find themselves in, not just us. So what's the ROI going to be if at the end of the year we don't fill any of these positions from these two things? We don't get anything back for it. So I'm going to approve it because I want to give you every tool in your toolbox. But I guess I don't foresee this shortage going away because the pipeline isn't there from higher ed. Until people, I believe, show the respect for people who teach in the classroom, I think we're going to have a shortage. So beyond doing this next year again, what is it that we, as a board, can support for you to do to reach more candidates? That would be my question. That, I'll be blunt, doesn't cost $1,000 a candidate. That would be my request going forward. I want to give you every tool in your toolbox. I do not think this is like I said, an LISD problem. I think it is a public school problem, a school problem, just a teacher shortage. I would encourage anybody out there listening who would like to be a teacher to apply at LISD, because we have some amazing students that are ready to greet you.
Thank you, Sheila. I know how hard you're working because we talked last week. It was probably 6:30, 7 o'clock, and so I appreciate your your willingness to always ask. I think we've talked over the years, even before you were here. If you don't ask for it, you're not gonna get it. You may ask for it and not get it, and so a lot of people don't bring things forward. You, on the other hand, are very willing to do that. So I'm with Jenny. I'm a little bit concerned on the cost, but I think us throttling that back at this point where we're at with things, trying to recover, it would be a mistake. With that said, I would just like to make this broad statement that if we have to start showing some restraint someplace. If you think about things that we talked about tonight, let's say we change the graduation venue, we use event staffing, we do this. We've just spent $500,000, right? And so. No, we're not. This item is not for $500,000. But I think you all get my drift. At some point, we are going to have to start showing some restraint here. We are not going to be able to just keep our receipts and go to the legislature and work our great relationships and they're going to then offset some of this. Our hope is that they are, but some of these things we're just going to have to use some restraint. And I know we'll probably talk more about that on Wednesday and opportunities to do that. And you guys have probably thought through this in all kinds of ways. So with that said, let me just close it with, do you want to say something? Because I'm going to ask for the motion.
I will just say I agree with you. I don't like this either. I'm asking for it because we still need close to 70 teachers, and we're a week and a half away from school starting.
I think I would just close with, I appreciate so much. I got to talk to each one of you and just thank you for your consideration of the tools in the toolbox. And one of the things that, I made note of was to come back in October and report out. How did it go with the applicants with the system? Just give you all an update. I think that that's something, we're really trying to be cognizant of, is how to give you all frequent updates about what we're doing. And so thank you so much.
You bet. Okay, do I have a motion? Dr. Bonner?
I move that the board approve the online applicant tracking systems and other related services and the estimated expenditures for 1 year with Education Service Center Region 10, Education Service Center Region 11, and Frontline Technologies Group, LLC, through the associated procurement processes as recommended by administration.
discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion passes 6-1. Thank you, Ms. Smith. All right, we'll now convene we'll now convene back into closed session as authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551, specifically 551.071 and 551.076. The time is 9:28 p.m.
We are back in open session.
11 straight up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the board ended. Okay, 11.
We're back in open session, having returned from closed session. The time is now 11 o'clock. If there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned. The time is 11 p.m.